you go out. Which means that customers can see this store the first time they come up, Manager Chen introduced enthusiastically. After the introduction, Lin Chuan showed a look of satisfaction and nodded slightly to show his approval. Ellen, sign this contract and the shop will be yours. After saying that, Manager Chen took out a contract and handed it to Lin Chuan respectfully. Lin Chuan took the contract, read it carefully, and signed his name casually after finding no problems. Excuse me, what is Ellen going to do with this store? Manager Chen asked curiously. Do you know Xuanmeng Restaurant? Lin Chuan asked slowly. I know, I've been there to eat there. The food is very delicious, but you have to wait in line for a long time every time. Manager Chen couldn't help but sigh when he recalled that experience. Suddenly, Manager Chen realized something could it be. This is going to be a branch of Xuanmeng Restaurant. Lin Chuan raised the corners of his mouth and revealed a faint smile. Really? That's great, Manager Chen cheered in surprise, his face filled with irrepressible joy. Now Xuanmeng Restaurant is opened in the commercial plaza where I work, so it will be much more convenient if I want to eat there in the future. After completing the shop handover procedures, Manager Chen turned around and left with satisfaction. Not long after, Xu Quan arrived at the 5th floor of Haitian Plaza, panting. As soon as he arrived, his eyes quickly locked in the direction of Brother Xuan. I saw Brother Xuan standing in an extremely spacious large shop. Xu Quan walked quickly into the store and shouted loudly, Brother Xuan, I'm late. It's okay after all. Where you live is indeed a bit far from here, Lin Chuan said with a smile. Xu Quan looked around curiously, then fixed his sight on this store, his eyes gleaming with excitement, and nodded continuously, saying, Brother Xuan, is this the second branch of our Xuanmeng Restaurant that is about to open? Lin Chuan nodded slightly to show his affirmation. Quan examined this space more and more carefully, secretly admiring it in his heart. Xu Quan looked at the store carefully at this time and nodded with satisfaction. This store is not only larger than the one located in Jinwan Plaza, but also has an excellent geographical location. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but give Lin Chuan a thumbs up and praised him sincerely. Brother Xuan is really amazing, he actually managed to take over such a luxurious shop again. Lin Chuan smiled and continued. This place hasn't been renovated yet, the rest is up to you. Xu Quan patted his chest and assured, no problem. Leave it to me. By the way, do you have money for decoration? Lin Chuan asked. Hearing this, Xu Quan smiled confidently and replied, yes, Xuanmeng Restaurant has been doing very well since its opening and has made a lot of profit. The funds we saved are more than enough for the renovation. After hearing this, Lin Chuan nodded with satisfaction and said, then do a good job. After saying goodbye to Xu Quan, Lin Chuan drove back. As for all matters in Xuanmeng Restaurant, he was only responsible for collecting money, and the rest of the operation was left to Xu Quan. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, several days have passed. In the afternoon of that day, the sunlight shone through the window onto the bed, and Lin Chuan was immersed in a sweet dream. Suddenly he felt a pair of gentle little hands gently rocking his body. Lin Chuan slowly opened his eyes with sleepy eyes, and what came into his sight was Li Mengyao's face full of anxiety and eagerness. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Lin Chuan at this moment. As if she had something important to tell him, Lin Chuan couldn't help but feel puzzled, and asked softly, what's wrong with my wife? Li Mengyao said anxiously, honey, the written test results are out. Chapter 231, you don't even know you're wrong. If that were the case, he wouldn't be sleepy anymore. The results are out? How many places did my wife get? Lin Chuan asked. Li Mengyao pouted and replied, I haven't checked yet. My husband, please help me check. Lin Chuan smiled slightly and said lovingly, then let your husband help you check. As he said that, he picked up Li Mengyao and walked towards the office area. Li Mengyao took the opportunity to hook her little hands around Lin Chuan's neck and stuck to him obediently. Coming to the computer, Lin Chuan sat down with Li Mengyao in his arms, and then opened the recruitment website. Wife, please enter your admission ticket and password. Lin Chuan looked at her gently. Li Mengyao gently stretched out her little hand and typed slowly. After finishing, she hid her little face in Lin Chuan's arms, as if she was afraid to face the upcoming result. Wife, I want to check my grades, Lin Chuan reminded softly. He successfully logged into the recruitment website and entered the page for checking scores. Well, check it quickly, Li Mengyao murmured in his arms. Lin Chuan clicked the button to check the results. However, when he saw the information displayed on the screen, he feigned surprise and cried out, this shouldn't be the case, wife, how could this happen? When Li Mengyao heard this, her heart sank. Did she really do so badly on the test? She hurriedly turned her head to look at the screen. A computer clearly displayed, Li Mengyao scored 88 points, ranked first. When she turned around to look at Lin Chuan, she found that he was looking at her with a playful smile. How dare you, my sticky husband, lie to me? Li Mengyao pouted, then quickly placed her two small hands on Lin Chuan's waist and began to tickle him hard. Buddy, I was wrong. Stop scratching me. Lin Xuan couldn't help laughing, and quickly begged his wife for mercy. You don't even know what's wrong. Li Mengyao was still unwilling to let Lin Xuan go and continued to tickle him with greater intensity. Lin Xuan had no choice but to stretch out one hand to tightly hold Li Mengyao's small hand, and with the other hand, gently hold her forehead, and then kiss her affectionately. Their lips pressed tightly together. After a long time, Li Mengyao slowly leaned on Lin Xuan. With a happy smile on her face, she picked up her phone and happily shared the good news with her best friends. Lin Xuan gently reminded her, "Wife, we still have an interview to go." "Oh yeah." Li Mengyao woke up as if from a dream, and quickly climbed up from Lin Xuan, and took out several copies of Praetsit knowledge from her bag. These materials come from different training institutions, including a certain map, a certain pass, and a certain pen, etc. These were forced upon me by the training institution before my written test. As Li Mengyao spoke, she returned to sit next to Lin Xuan. There are quite a lot of varieties. Lin Xuan took it and flipped through it carefully. "Ani, which training class should I apply for the interview?" Lin Xuan searched for information about various interview training classes on the internet. After some screening, he found that a certain bank had a branch in Haitian district, which was quite close to their home. "Then choose this one, as closer to home and more convenient," Lin Xuan suggested with a smile. "Yeah." Li Mengyao nodded obediently to show her agreement. Then, she purchased a spot for the interview class online. "However, time is tight. I just registered today and classes will start tomorrow. After all, there are only 10 days left for the interview, and every minute and every second is extremely precious." Just when Li Mengyao was about to get up and go to the study to read, Lin Xuan suddenly grabbed her hand. "Wife, take a rest today, won't be too late to study at the tutoring institution tomorrow." Lin Xuan looked at his wife studying hard and said with heartache. He knew that interviews required on-the-spot learning, and that self-study would have limited effects, so he hoped that she could relax. "Okay, what should we do next?" Li Mengyao tilted her head and looked at Lin Xuan expectantly. Lin Xuan thought about it and suggested, "Let's make a cake together to celebrate my wife getting first place in the written test." Li Mengyao laughed happily and agreed readily. "Okay." So, Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao's hand and went to the kitchen on the ground floor of the villa. The two of them divided the work. Lin Xuan was responsible for frying the crust, while Li Mengyao was concentrating on stirring the cream and processing the mangoes. While they were busy, they chatted happily and enjoyed the fun of creating delicious food together. Soon, after 2 hours of hard work, a beautiful mango millefeuille cake was finally completed. Lin Xuan carefully placed the mango millefeuille cake into the refrigerator to allow it to better set. At this time, it was almost dinner time. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao decided to continue cooking dinner together in the kitchen. They cooperated tacitly. Lin Xuan was responsible for cooking, and Li Mengyao helped wash and cut vegetables. After a while, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao brought out dishes that were delicious and placed them on the dining table. Finally, Lin Xuan shouted, "Mom, it's time to eat." At this time, Shang Xiaolan had just coaxed Bao and Xiaobao to sleep, and came to the dining table to prepare for dinner. When she looked closely, she saw that the table was filled with all kinds of delicious food, including salt-baked chicken, stir-fried clams with Chinese pepper, pork belly wrapped in chicken, Antonese fish soup, black bean sauce, spare ribs and claypot rice, beef and claypot rice with egg, and a combination of cured meats and claypot rice. These dishes are delicious and mouth-watering. "Son, why is the meal so rich today?" Shang Xiaolan asked. Lin Xuan smiled and replied, "Mom, it's because Mengyao got first place in the written test today, so I specially prepared a table of delicious dishes to celebrate. And there will be cake later." Hearing the good news, Shang Xiaolan said happily, "Really? That's great, my daughter-in-law is so smart." The family sat around the dining table and enjoyed the sumptuous dinner. Everyone enjoyed the food and laughed a lot. After dinner, Lin Xuan picked up the carefully prepared cake, took Li Mengyao's hand, and went to the multimedia audiovisual room on the second basement floor of the villa. After entering the audiovisual room, Lin Xuan turned on the lights, and the whole room suddenly became bright. What comes into view is a luxurious decoration, with various art paintings hanging on the walls and soft carpets on the floor. The most eye-catching thing is the huge movie screen in the center of the room, which occupies the entire wall and gives people a shocking visual impact. In front of the screen, there is a set of top-level audio equipment with speakers surrounding it. In addition, there is a spacious and comfortable sofa for people to enjoy the fun of watching movies. Lin Xuan gently carried Li Mengyao to the sofa and let her lean comfortably on his shoulder. And he turned on the movie and played a warm and romantic love film. The two of them spent a sweet and warm night while enjoying the delicious millefeuille watching the wonderful movie plot. Chapter 232. I need to ask my husband. The next morning, sunlight poured into the room through the window. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao got up early, went to the bathroom together and started washing. While using the electric toothbrush in her hand, Li Mengyao said to Lin Chuan in a vague voice. "Ubby, you don't have to get up so early, I can drive there by myself." Lin Chuan smiled and responded. "It's okay, honey, I don't have anything to do recently, so I'll pick you up every day." After Lin Chuan finished speaking, he quickly brushed his teeth and then picked up a towel to wipe his face. He noticed that Li Mengyao had also finished washing up, so he picked up her pink towel and gently wiped her face. Li Mengyao enjoyed her husband's warm service with a happy smile on her face. Afterwards, the two returned to the bedroom, changed into clean clothes, and went downstairs to the restaurant to have breakfast. After breakfast, Lin Chuan took Li Mengyao's hand, walked out of the villa and came to the garage. Lin Chuan took out the Lamborghini car key from his pocket, gently pressed the lock button and the car door slowly rose. The two got into the car. Lin Chuan started the engine, the Lamborghini made a low roar, and slowly drove out of the garage. Not long after, Lamborghini arrived downstairs of the training institution. Li Mengyao turned her head, looked at Lin Chuan affectionately, and then took the initiative to give him a sweet kiss on his lips. "Honey, I'm leaving." Then Li Mengyao opened the car door and walked into the gate of the training institution. At this moment, many people who had signed up for the interview class came to class one after another, and their surprised eyes were all focused on Li Mengyao. Not to mention her stunning appearance, the sight of her getting out of the Lamborghini was enough to make everyone dumbfounded. How can someone so rich take the teacher examination? After seeing his wife enter the training institution, Lin Chuan drove home to take care of the children. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye it is already noon. After Lin Chuan carefully prepared lunch, he drove the Lamborghini to the downstairs of the training institution again. After waiting for a while, Li Mengyao walked out of the door happily and threw herself into Lin Chuan's arms as lightly as a bird. "Honey, sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time." Li Mengyao's face was filled with a happy smile. "Thank you for your hard work, my dear. Are you hungry?" Lin Chuan lowered his head and kissed her forehead gently, saying tenderly. "Yeah." Li Mengyao nodded obediently. "And let's go home for dinner. My husband has already prepared the food. They are all your favorites," Lin Chuan said with a smile. And the two of them got into the Lamborghini. Lin Chuan started the car and drove towards the Haitian Yijing villa. In the next few days, Lin Chuan picked up Li Mengyao and dropped her off every day. One morning, Li Mengyao was attending class seriously. Suddenly, someone called her softly. "Classmate, classmate." After hearing this, Li Mengyao turned around and saw a beautiful girl who often sat next to her, looking at her with a smile on her face. She had long hair, fair skin, and was wearing a white dress. She was dressed very beautifully. "I left in a hurry this morning and forgot to bring my textbook. Can we look at it together?" Li Huiru asked softly. "Sure." Li Mengyao moved her textbook towards her. "Thank you," Li Huiru said gratefully. "You're welcome," Li Mengyao responded with a smile. And the two began to listen to the class seriously. It was not until the break time that Li Mengyao stood up to fetch some water. At this time, Li Huiru also stood up and walked to Li Mengyao's side. "Thank you for what you did just now. My name is Li Huiru. Can we get to know each other?" Li Huiru introduced herself with a smile. "Hello. My name is Li Mengyao." Li Mengyao smiled and responded politely. Then the two of them started chatting happily. "Mengyao, where are you applying for?" Li Huiru asked curiously. Li Mengyao felt nervous, thinking that she couldn't easily reveal her application information. But it was not easy to refuse directly, so she kept her eyes open and asked back, "Where did you apply for?" "I applied to Haitian District No. 1 Primary School," Li Huiru answered truthfully. "You too?" Li Mengyao opened her mouth in surprise. Could it be my competitor? Just as she was daydreaming, Li Huiru asked. "So you are also applying for the Haitian District No. 1 Primary School. Which position did you apply for?" Li Mengyao came back to her senses and replied. "I applied for the language position." Hearing this answer, Li Huiru smiled with relief and said, "That's okay. We are not competitors. I signed up for English." Li Mengyao finally breathed a sigh of relief. So that's how it was. Just then, another girl came up. She had neat short hair, a tall and slender figure, giving people a capable feeling. Li Huiru introduced enthusiastically. "This is my friend's. He also applied to Haitian District No. 1 Primary School, but she applied for the major of mathematics." Then, the girl introduced herself with a smile. "Hello, my name is Zeng Kiki. Nice to meet you." Li Mengyao also responded politely. "Hello, my name is Li Mengyao. Nice to meet you too." Through chatting, Li Mengyao learned that Li Huiru and Zeng Kiki were 3 years older than her, and they had taken the exam for 3 years but still failed. Despite this they did not give up and still insisted on taking the exam every year. After learning that Li Mengyao passed the interview on her first try, Li Huiru and Zeng Kiki both expressed great envy towards her. At this time, Li Huiru suggested, "Hey, let's practice interview questions together when we have time at noon." Hearing this suggestion, Zeng Kiki also agreed. Sure, after all, The interview will be soon, and the three of us can help each other. However, Li Mengyao said hesitantly, well, I have to ask my husband. Li Huiruan's Kiki looked at her in surprise and asked in unison, you're married already? Li Mengyao nodded slightly. Then she turned on her cell phone and called Lin Xuan. Honey, I may not go home for lunch, Li Mengyao said softly. Why? Lin Xuan asked puzzled Li. I met two sisters here. Then they invited me to stay for lunch to practice interview skills with them, Li Mengyao explained. Okay, then your husband will send you a lunchbox. Lin Xuan answered considerately. No need, I can just grab a bite nearby. Li Mengyao didn't want her husband to run back and forth. Just listen to me, my wife. Lin Xuan insisted on sending her food, his tone firm. Oh, Li Mengyao responded obediently. Then, a sweet smile appeared on her face. As if the whole world became beautiful. Chapter 233, Your husband is here to bring you food. After Lin Xuan hung up the phone, he got up and walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator and carefully searched for the ingredients. He decided to make a hearty lunchbox for Li Mengyao. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye it was noon. Li Mengyao finally finished her morning classes and walked out of the classroom tiredly. At this time, Li Huiru came over and said to her, Mengyao, let's order takeout together, what do you want to eat? At this moment, Zheng Kiki suddenly appeared from behind, with a bright smile on her face, and said, I want the barbecued pork and beef rice. Okay, Mengyao, how about you? Li Huiru asked. Li Mengyao smiled and said, thank you, but I don't need it. My husband will bring me food later. Hearing this, Zheng Kiki exclaimed enviously, wow, your husband is so considerate, he even personally brought the meal over. Li Huiru also echoed, yes, it's really enviable. Li Mengyao smiled happily and responded, you guys order first. Huiru nodded and said, okay, then we'll order first. So she took out her cell phone and ordered to take out meals on a group tour. Not long after, the delivery guy brought the steaming hot meal to the door. Li Huiru happily took the takeaways to the lounge and shouted to Zheng Kiki who was chatting, Kiki, come and eat. I'm starving. Zheng Kiki excitedly took her portion of barbecued pork and beef rice and couldn't wait to eat it. And Li Huiru patted him gently on the shoulder. What? Zheng Kiki asked vaguely while still chewing meat. Mengyao hasn't eaten yet, Li Huiru reminded. Oh sorry, I was too hungry just now, your husband hasn't come yet. How about we share some with you? Zheng Kiki smiled awkwardly. No, you guys eat first. My husband will be here soon. Li Mengyao looked at her pink dime and high-tech watch and found that Lin Xuan's location was very close to her. Then let's eat first, Li Huiru said to Li Mengyao. Yeah, Li Mengyao nodded slightly. Afterwards, Li Huiru and Zheng Kiki began to work hard to eat. After all, they had worked hard for the whole morning and were already starving. Li Mengyao looked down at her watch again, and was surprised to find that her husband had already come downstairs. She immediately stood up and walked towards the elevator with brisk steps. After a while, the elevator reached the first floor and slowly opened its door. The first person that caught Li Mengyao's eyes was Lin Xuan, who was holding an insulated lunchbox in his hand and was quietly waiting for the elevator to arrive. Hubby, Li Mengyao shouted excitedly and quickly threw herself into Lin Xuan's arms, hugging him tightly. She raised her head, with a charming smile on her face. Husband is here to bring you food. Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's little head, his eyes full of love. What delicious food did you make? Li Mengyao asked curiously, with a happy smile on her lips. These are all your favorite foods, let's go upstairs first. Lin Xuan replied with a smile, then pulled Li Mengyao into the elevator. Soon after, the two came to the lounge of the training institution. As soon as they opened the door, Li Huiru and Zheng Kiki turned their eyes to them at the same time and were instantly attracted by Lin Xuan's handsome appearance. It turns out that beautiful women should be paired with handsome men. When these two stand together, they are simply a match made in heaven. Huiru. Kiki, this is my husband, Li Mengyao introduced with a smile. Hello, my name is Lin Xuan, Lin Xuan said with a faint smile on his lips. Hello, my name is Li Huiru. Hello, my name is Zheng Kiki. After greeting each other, Li Mengyao and Lin Xuan sat down opposite them. Seeing Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao coming together, Li Huiru and Zheng Kiki were filled with curiosity. They really wanted to know what kind of delicious food Lin Xuan had prepared for Li Mengyao. Lin Xuan carefully took out an insulated lunchbox and gently opened it. At that moment, as if entering a comic book world, a dazzling golden light shot out from the box. Wow! It's a beef Wellington bento, Zheng Kiki shouted. The golden crispy crust tightly wrapped the tender and juicy steak, and the surface of the steak was covered with rich black pepper sauce, exuding an enticing aroma. There were 6 plump shrimps placed next to it, which looked very delicious. For the sides, there were colorful roasted vegetables, carrots and broccoli. They are neatly placed aside, adding to the visual enjoyment of the entire bento. The rice grains are full, and there is a carefully made heart-shaped fried egg in the middle, which makes people salivate at the sight. At this moment, Li Huiru and Zhang Kiki looked at the half-eaten takeaway in their hands and suddenly felt that it was not delicious anymore. However, since they had just met, they were a little embarrassed to ask to share Li Mengyao's delicious food. Therefore, he could only watch Li Mengyao enjoy this sumptuous lunch. At the same time, Li Mengyao was concentrating on tasting the food. She held chopsticks in her hand and enjoyed every bite of delicious food. Lin Chuan stood aside, looking at his wife quietly with a gentle smile on his face. "Honey, have you eaten?" Li Mengyao asked while eating. "I ate it," Lin Chuan answered straightforwardly. Li Mengyao looked at Lin Chuan's eyes and always felt that something was wrong. After being together for so long, she knew her husband very well and could tell at a glance that he was lying. Then she stretched out her little hand and gently touched Lin Chuan's belly. Sure enough, Lin Chuan's stomach was empty, and there was no sign of being full. "Liar, you didn't eat it at all," Li Mengyao said cockathiously. "We'll eat when we get back." Seeing that he had been found out, Lin Chuan had no choice but to admit it honestly. In fact, after he prepared the loving lunchbox for his wife, he drove here without stopping and had no time to eat. Li Mengyao looked around and saw that there were other people around. So she felt embarrassed to feed her husband directly. So she quickened her eating speed, and after quickly finishing half of it, she pushed the lunchbox in front of Lin Chuan. "Honey, I can't eat anymore," Li Mengyao said. "Eat more," Lin Chuan said with concern. "I really can't eat anymore, I'll give it to you. You like my food, anyway." Li Mengyao blushed and was too embarrassed to say the following words. Then Lin Chuan smiled and picked up the lunchbox and started eating. Chapter 234. With my husband around, I don't feel tired anymore. Lin Chuan put the last bite of rice into his mouth, then stood up, packed up his lunchbox and left. At this time, Li Huiru and Zhang Kiki came over. "Mengyao, your husband is so handsome." Li Huiru spoke first, her tone full of envy. "Yes, he is not only handsome, but also a good cook. You two are so loving," Zhang Kiki immediately echoed. "Okay. Stop talking about me, we should hurry up and practice," Li Mengyao smiled. Then the three of them began to practice interview questions. On the other side, Lin Chuan had already returned home. As soon as he entered the door, he heard the crying of Dabao and Xiaobao. He ran over and asked with concern, "Babies, what's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable?" As he spoke, he reached out and picked up Dabao and Xiaobao, rocking them gently, trying to calm them down. Chan Xiaolan stood aside, looking at the two children distressly, and said, "I don't know why the babies kept crying today. Even after they were full, they kept crying. Maybe you miss your mother. Be good. Baby's mommy won't be back until night these days." Lin Chuan looked at Dabao and Xiaobao gently and smiled. When Dabao and Xiaobao saw that it was their familiar father, who still had a hint of their mother's scent on him, they stopped crying. A pair of big eyes stared at Lin Chuan, revealing an innocent expression. Afterwards, with Lin Chuan's comfort, Dabao and Xiaobao fell asleep quickly. Looking at the two little guys' faces filled with happy and satisfied smiles, Lin Chuan's heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. He gently put Dabao and Xiaobao back into the crib and carefully covered them with the quilt, for fear of waking them up. At this moment, a message alert sounded from the phone. It was from his wife Li Mengyao. "Honey, are the babies crying?" Lin Chuan quickly replied, "No, he is sleeping peacefully now, very well behaved." Then, he picked up his phone, took a picture of the baby sleeping, and sent it to Li Mengyao. After a while, Li Mengyao replied, "Don't the babies miss their moms?" Lin Chuan smiled and replied, "I was thinking about it in my dream, honey. You should concentrate on your studies. Your husband is at home. Love you." After hearing this, Li Mengyao showed a sweet smile on her face. After Lin Chuan woke up in the afternoon, he first took good care of the two little ones. After finishing all these, Lin Chuan looked at the time and felt that it was almost time to prepare dinner for Li Mengyao. So he went into the kitchen and carefully prepared a sumptuous lunchbox of love. After making the love lunchbox, Lin Chuan drove his Lamborghini again towards the training institution where Li Mengyao was. On the other hand, Li Mengyao was exhausted physically and mentally after an afternoon of classes. She lay on the table, her beautiful eyes gradually closed, and she fell asleep in a daze. In her sleep, Li Mengyao seemed to hear someone calling her. "Wife. Wife. Who is your wife?" "Don't call her that," Li Mengyao said in a daze. "Why do people always call beautiful women their wives these days? But this voice is familiar. You are not my wife. Whose wife are you?" Lin Chuan looked at Li Mengyao, who was already half asleep. A gentle smile appeared on his lips, and he spoke softly. At this time, Li Mengyao slowly opened her beautiful eyes, and Lin Chuan's handsome face gradually became clear in her eyes. "Husband, when did you come?" Li Mengyao woke up instantly and shouted in surprise. "I just arrived not long ago." Lin Xuan replied with a smile, and at the same time took out a tissue from his pocket and gently wiped the saliva from the corner of Li Mengyao mouth. Li Mengyao hurriedly took out her cell phone to check the time and found that she had actually slept for an hour. And my husband must have been waiting here for a long time. You lied to me again, Li Mengyao said with heartache. Okay, let's eat. After saying that, Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao's hand and went to the lounge. Then he took out 2 insulated lunch boxes from the bag. Honey, why do you have to lunch boxes at night? Li Mengyao asked curiously. Your husband will eat here with you these days. Lin Xuan looked at her gently, picked up the chopsticks and said softly. Hearing this, Li Mengyao's face blossomed with a happy smile. She happily hugged Lin Xuan's neck and said coquettously, lie. My husband is so good. Lin Xuan smiled gently. Then opened 2 lunch boxes. One was a crab meat and caviar pasta bento. The thin and chewy pasta is entangled together, covered with tender crab meat and plum caviar, exuding a luxurious atmosphere. A few fresh basil leaves and a few perfectly roasted cloves of garlic were garnished on the side, adding a unique flavor to the whole dish. The other was a grilled lamb chops with vegetable and quinoa bento. The tender grilled lamb chops are an attractive brown color, sprinkled with some spices, and have a fragrant aroma. A quinoa rice on the side is full of grains and mixed with colorful vegetables. Bell peppers, purple cabbage, etc. The whole bento looks healthy and delicious. Wow, it smells so good, Li Mengyao couldn't help but exclaimed. She couldn't help but touch her belly with her hand, her eyes shining with anticipation. Then, she took the initiative to pick up a piece of garlic and put it in Lin Xuan's box, smiling and saying, Honey, this garlic is for you. Then, she rolled up some pasta with a fork and gently put it into Lin Xuan's box. Seeing this, Lin Xuan smiled slightly. He picked up the chopsticks, gently picked up a piece of grilled lamb chop, and then put it in Li Mengyao's lunchbox. Then the two of them began to enjoy the delicious bento. At this moment, Lin Huiru and Zhang Kiki were hiding behind the door, secretly watching the two of them eat. When they saw the golden light emanating from the bento, a trace of saliva unconsciously appeared at the corners of their mouths. However, just as they were watching intently, Li Mengyao suddenly raised her head and looked towards the door. Lin Huiru and Zhang Kiki were startled and quickly shrank back. After the two of them had their dinner, Lin Xuan drove back. Li Mengyao stayed to continue studying until about 10 o'clock in the evening. It was late at night. Li Mengyao packed her things and went downstairs. After saying goodbye to Li Huiru and Zhang Kiki, she fell into Lin Xuan's arms. Thank you for your hard work, my wife. Lin Xuan lowered his head and kissed Li Mengyao's forehead, saying with a smile, with my husband around, I don't feel tired, Li Mengyao said with a smile. And the two returned to the Lamborghini, and Lin Xuan started the car and drove towards Haitian Yijing. After a while, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned home. As soon as I opened the door, I heard loud crying. Wow! Li Mengyao immediately heard the crying of Dabao and Xiaobao. She hurried forward and hugged Dabao and Xiaobao. Oh, I'm sorry, mommy is back later on. Cry, don't cry. Li Mengyao coaxed the two children softly, feeling very distressed. At this time, Dabao and Xiaobao saw their mother coming back, and they both fluttered their bodies and twisted towards Li Mengyao, as if expressing their longing for their mother. Li Mengyao gently patted Dabao and Xiaobao on the back and comforted them. It's okay. Mommy is back, don't cry. Her voice was soft and gentle, and the two children gradually calmed down. Chapter 235. From now on, Mengyao will be my good sister. In Li Mengyao's warm embrace, Dabao and Xiaobao gradually closed their eyes and fell into a sweet dream. Li Mengyao looked at the two little ones sleeping peacefully and smiled happily. Wife, give the child to me, you go take a shower first, Lin Xuan said softly. He knew that Li Mengyao had worked hard all day and needed a good rest. Yeah, Li Mengyao nodded. She carefully handed Dabao and Xiaobao to Lin Xuan, then gently stood up, picked up her clothes and prepared to go to the bathroom. Lin Xuan took Dabao and Xiaobao and gently put them back into the crib. It was late at night and everything was quiet. Li Mengyao lay quietly on the soft big bed, hugging Lin Xuan tightly, as if she wanted to merge herself into his arms. She pressed her cheek against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat and feeling the warmth emanating from him. Honey, will you bring me food tomorrow? Li Mengyao murmured softly. Send it. Why? Don't you like the bento your husband made? Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Mengyao's hair, his eyes full of pampering and tenderness. No, I like it very much. Li Mengyao raised her head and kissed Lin Xuan hard on the face. Can you make 2 more lunch boxes for tomorrow's lunch? Li Mengyao continued. Ah? Lin Xuan was a little puzzled. When did his wife have such a good appetite? Li Mengyao quickly shook her head and explained, no, I just wanted to share the lunchbox with Huiru and Kiki. Seeing the two of them tonight, my mouth was watering. Lin Xuan asked curiously, you two had just met for a short time, right? Li Mengyao nodded and replied, yes, we just met not long ago, but I think they are very easy to get along with. When we were studying together, They always patiently corrected my problems and also taught me some interview skills and experience. By the way, they also applied to Haitian District No. 1 primary school. I feel like we can become colleagues in the future, Li Mengyao continued. Lin Chuan looked at his wife with a smile and teased, "Wife, aren't you afraid that they are your competitors?" Li Mengyao smiled confidently and answered, "One of them took the English test, and the other took the math test. They are in different positions than me. Okay. I'll prepare to more tomorrow. After all, it's not a bad thing for your wife to have more good friends around her." Then, Lin Chuan lowered his head and kissed Li Mengyao's delicate lips. It was noon the next day and Li Mengyao finished class. At this time, Li Huiru and Zhang Kiki were about to continue ordering takeout, but Li Mengyao suddenly interrupted them. "Huiru Kiki, you don't have to order takeout," Li Mengyao said softly. "Why?" Li Huiru asked, puzzled. "Lie. My husband said he would bring 2 extra lunchboxes for you to try," Li Mengyao explained with a smile. Upon hearing the news, Li Huiru and Zhang Kiki both showed surprised expressions. "Really? Mengyao, you're so nice to us." Li Huiru excitedly walked forward and hugged Li Mengyao tightly. "From now on, Mengyao is my good sister." Zhang Kiki was not to be outdone. She also stepped forward and hugged Li Mengyao and said, "What about me?" Li Huiru looked up at Zhang Kiki and asked mischievously. "You too," Zhang Kiki replied with a smile. The laughter of the three echoed in the air. The three of them were chatting happily in the lounge. Time passed quickly, and Su Lin Chuan walked in carrying 4 exquisite tinselated lunchboxes. When Li Mengyao saw this, she immediately stood up and went over to help get the things. Lin Chuan smiled and said to her, "My wife must be starving." Li Mengyao nodded sweetly and replied, "I am a little hungry indeed." Then the two returned to the lounge hand in hand. Lin Chuan placed 4 exquisite lunchboxes neatly on the table and said with a smile, "Pick a blind box, eat whatever you choose. Chef Lin, thank you for your hospitality." Zhang Kiki was very excited and was the first to reach out and pick a lunchbox closest to her. When she opened the lid, a rich aroma hit her nose. It's a delicious matsasaka pork cutlet curry rice bento. The golden and crispy pork chops are neatly arranged on the fragrant and soft rice. The thick curry sauce evenly covers the pork chops and rice, exuding an enticing aroma. The side dishes are also very rich, including chopped potatoes, carrots and onions, which are cooked soft and tasty, colorful, and increase your appetite. "I'm starting too," Li Huiru said excitedly. She glanced at the 3 lunchboxes on the table and picked the one closest to her. She gently opened the lid of the box, and a mouth-watering aroma hit her face. It was a cod caviar fried rice bento. The fried rice grains are distinct, and each one is infused with fresh cod pieces, with a delicious and chewy texture. The surface is covered with precious caviar, like sparkling black pearls, exuding a light salty taste and rich ocean scent. The fried rice is an attractive golden color that makes people drool. In addition, the bento is served with some sweet and sour hawthorn slices and fresh lettuce leaves as side dishes, adding a refreshing taste to the whole dish. Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao looked at each other and smiled in tacit understanding. They randomly selected one of the 2 remaining boxes. Li Mengyao opened a French foie gras and steak bento. The tender and juicy steak and the delicate and plump French foie gras complement each other and are placed on the carefully cooked rice, like a beautiful painting. The surface of the steak is fried to the perfect brown color, exuding an enticing aroma that makes you salivate. The foie gras is an attractive golden color, melts in your mouth and has a rich aroma. As for the side dishes, the thinly chopped purple onions and small and exquisite cherry tomatoes add color and layering to the whole dish, and finally garnished with a piece of fresh mint leaves, it is more elegant. Lin Chuan had the marbled beef and asparagus roll bento, with marbled beef slices wrapped around tender asparagus and fried to perfection. The texture of the beef is clear and the asparagus is green and refreshing, served on rice and topped with black pepper sauce. It is mouth-watering. The side dishes are chopped pumpkin and a few fungus, which have a soft and glutinous texture and are rich in nutrients. Li Huiru and Zhang Kiki looked at the delicious food in front of them, and couldn't wait to pick up their chopsticks and take a bite. In an instant, they were so shocked that they were speechless, as if their tongues had been sealed by the delicious food before them. After a long time, the two came to their senses. "Chef Lin, the bento you make is so delicious," Li Huiru couldn't help but exclaimed. "Yeah, I feel like I don't want to eat any other delicacies in the future." Zhang Kiki was deeply impressed by Lin Chuan's cooking skills. In this way, the 4 of them enjoyed the food and chatted happily. Chapter 236 Wife, you are so cute. It was afternoon, and when Li Mengyao was taking a break after a class, a boy from the same class came over. He is quite handsome, but there is a hint of cunning in his eyes. "Hello. Can I ask you some questions? I didn't understand some things in the class just now." The boy smiled, revealing a row of white teeth. Li Huiru was sitting nearby and saw through the boy's thoughts at a glance. She muttered to herself, "TSK, you're just trying to strike up a conversation while studying." Li Mengyao raised her head, smiled slightly, and replied politely, I'm sorry. I don't know how to do it either, you can ask the teacher. However, the boys did not give up easily. He continued with a smile, then we can discuss it together, or go and ask the teacher together, how about that? Li Mengyao frowned and was about to refuse when Li Huiru couldn't help but interrupted. I said, didn't you see the ring on her hand? The boy lowered his head and took a closer look at the huge diamond ring in Li Mengyao's hand, and was secretly surprised. This diamond ring looks valuable and must be very expensive. He immediately understood that Li Mengyao was already married. She is already married, please don't disturb her, Li Huiru continued. Sorry. The boy smiled awkwardly, a blush on his face. Li Mengyao smiled slightly and said it was okay. Seeing this, the boy had no choice but to turn around and leave in shame. Thank you, Huiru, Li Mengyao said softly. It's okay, this is what good sisters should do, Li Huiru replied with a smile. Then, she said jokingly, Mengyao, you are so beautiful, this is the sixth person who has approached you. Hearing this, Li Mengyao's face flushed slightly, and she said angrily, don't talk nonsense. It was 10 o'clock in the evening. Lin Xuan came to the school gate as usual and waited for Li Mengyao to finish class and go home together. When they returned home, Lin Xuan suddenly noticed that Li Mengyao had been wearing a diamond ring to class these days. He remembered that Li Mengyao had said before that the diamond ring was too expensive and he was afraid of losing it accidentally while wearing it. She seldom takes the diamond ring out and only wears it occasionally at home for fun. Wife, why have you been wearing a diamond ring these days? Lin Xuan asked curiously. Well, I suddenly wanted to wear it, Li Mengyao said, then quickly picked up her clothes and went into the bathroom. Lin Xuan knew at a glance that Li Mengyao was lying, but he did not expose her. Instead, he touched his chin and showed his signature smirk on his face. As night fell, the two lay down on the bed and prepared to rest. Li Mengyao leaned sideways next to Lin Xuan, playing with her phone quietly. Wife, why do you suddenly start wearing a diamond ring these days? Lin Xuan continued to ask. Li Mengyao answered without even looking up, didn't I just say that? Lin Xuan shook his head and said, Wife, you are lying. Li Mengyao pouted and retorted. I didn't. Lin Xuan smiled, stretched out his hands and hugged Li Mengyao tightly, and said gently, and turn around and look at me. Li Mengyao was somewhat reluctant, but still slowly turned around, looking at Lin Xuan pitifully with her big eyes. At this moment, Lin Xuan gently lifted her chin and kissed her plump, rosy lips. I don't know how long we kissed. This is the punishment for lying to my husband, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Mengyao snorted angrily and stretched out her little hands to rub Lin Xuan's face hard. Lin Xuan grabbed her hand and asked softly, so why is it, if you don't tell the truth, keep kissing me? Because, after I put on the ring, fewer people approach me outside, Li Mengyao said in a low voice with a red face. Wife, you are so cute, Lin Xuan laughed after hearing this. Stinky husband, what are you laughing at? In the past few days, Lin Xuan carefully prepared love lunchboxes for Li Mengyao every day and personally took her home. Time flies. And finally, it came to the night before the interview. At this moment, Li Mengyao was standing in the master bedroom, trying on various clothes. Honey, what do you think of me wearing this dress? Li Mengyao wore a suit skirt set, which fit her curves perfectly, fully showing her graceful figure and exuding a charming glow. Lin Xuan raised his head, glanced at the clothes on her body, and nodded slightly. Very good, this one. After a while, Li Mengyao changed into another set of clothes and continued to ask for his opinion. Honey, how about I wear this dress again? At this time, Li Mengyao changed her clothes and continued to ask Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan looked up at her again with a gentle smile on his face. Li Mengyao pouted and said somewhat dissatisfied, lie, it's good. But it doesn't look good. After that, she started to search through the closet, looking for the next piece of clothing. Seeing this scene, Lin Xuan smiled slightly, stood up, walked behind Li Mengyao, stretched out his hands, and gently embraced her slender waist. He said softly, Wife, the most important thing in an interview is the content of the assessment, not the outfit. As long as you dress appropriately and elegantly, you don't need to change so many sets of clothes. Hearing Lin Xuan's words, Li Mengyao stopped searching for clothes, slowly turned her head, and stared at Lin Xuan with her beautiful eyes, with a hint of hesitation in her eyes. Seeing her expression, Lin Xuan gently stroked her delicate cheek and said with a smile, Wife, just perform normally, there will be no problem. After hearing what Lin Xuan said, Li Mengyao smiled brightly, nodded and responded, yeah. The next day came. The early morning sunlight poured into the room through the window, and Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao opened their eyes early. They quickly got up and started packing their things, making sure everything was ready. After washing up, the two enjoyed a delicious breakfast together. Then Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao's hand and got into the Mavic together. Wife, have you brought everything? Lin Xuan asked with concern. Let me check again. Li Mengyao lowered her head and searched her bag carefully. Yes, I have brought them all, she smiled sweetly. Then let's go. Lin Xuan started the car and slowly drove out of Haitian Yijing. Today's destination is a luxury hotel, which is where Li Mengyao's interview will take place. Along the way, Lin Xuan drove the car attentively, while Li Mengyao sat quietly in the passenger seat, her heart full of anticipation and nervousness. Not long after, they arrived at the hotel entrance smoothly. At this time, candidates had already walked into the hotel one after another, and the atmosphere seemed a little tense. Lin Xuan stopped the car, turned to look at Li Mengyao, and said gently, "Wife, come on." "I will." Li Mengyao nodded slightly, responding to Lin Xuan's gaze. She leaned forward, gently left a warm kiss on Lin Xuan's lips, then opened the car door and got out. Li Mengyao took a deep breath, straightened her body, and followed other candidates into the hotel examination room. Chapter 237 Love You, Big Liar. After his wife walked into the examination room, Lin Xuan parked the car aside and went to a nearby coffee shop. This store is decorated very exquisitely and the environment is quiet and elegant, which is very suitable for people to relax here. Lin Xuan pushed the door open and walked in. A rich aroma of coffee hit his nose. "Hello, please give me a cup of cappuccino, thank you," Lin Xuan said to the waiter with a smile. "Okay, please wait a moment, sir, you can find a seat by the window first." The waiter responded enthusiastically and directed Lin Xuan to the seat by the window. Lin Xuan came to a seat near the window and sat down. When he looked up, he could just see the examination room where Li Mengyao was. After a while, the waiter placed a cup of steaming cappuccino on the table in front of Lin Xuan. He gently picked up the cup, put it close to his nose, took a deep breath, and reveled in the rich aroma of coffee. Then, he slowly brought the cup to his lips, took a sip, and let the mellow taste spread on his tongue. Lin Xuan closed his eyes, savoring every drop of coffee, feeling the unique flavors spreading in his mouth. At the same time, he looked through the glass at the bustling streets outside the window, his thoughts gradually drifting away. The weather today is particularly pleasant in this April morning. The sun is warm and soft, shining through the clouds onto the earth. Golden light sprinkled on the street, illuminating the hurried footsteps of pedestrians. It sprinkled on the trees on the roadside, giving them a new coat of green. It also sprinkled on Lin Xuan's handsome face, outlining his deep contours. Suddenly, a crisp ding-dong sound broke the silence. Lin Xuan looked down at the screen of his mobile phone and found that it was a message from his wife. The corners of his mouth rose slightly and he quickly opened the chat window. "Li Mengyao, husband. Are you back?" "Lin Xuan, I'm going back." "Li Mengyao. Liar." "Lin Xuan, why do you always call your husband a liar?" "Li Mengyao. A liar is a liar if you don't admit it, look up." And Lin Xuan looked up and saw a window on the upper floor of the hotel. There stood a beautiful figure. Li Mengyao's face was filled with a bright smile, and she was waving her slender arms to wave at him. A warm feeling surged in Lin Xuan's heart. He smiled and waved to Li Mengyao, then made a phone call. "Big liar, why are you calling me?" Lin Xuan could hear Li Mengyao's energetic and playful laughter from the other end of the phone. Lin Xuan could hear Li Mengyao's laughter from the other end of the phone. "Wife, is the interview exam over?" Lin Xuan said with a smile. "No, I drew a number close to the middle, so it won't be my turn for a while," Li Mengyao answered in a relaxed tone. "Are you nervous?" Lin Xuan asked with concern. "Of course I'm nervous. But I'm not nervous anymore when I see my husband is here." Li Mengyao looked at Lin Xuan gently. "Okay, I'll go review it again, and I won't talk to you anymore," Li Mengyao said. "Okay, come on, wife," Lin Xuan said gently. "Love you, big liar?" Li Mengyao's voice was full of love. And then she hung up the phone with a smile, leaving Lin Xuan alone immersed in happiness. Soon, 2 hours passed. At this moment, Lin Xuan, who was sitting in a coffee shop leisurely playing with his mobile phone, received another message from Li Mengyao. "Honey, I'm done with the interview." "Okay, I'll be right there." After replying, Lin Xuan immediately stood up, quickly left the cafe, and thoughtfully ordered a cup of hot milk for Li Mengyao. And he returned to the Maybach, started the car and drove straight to the entrance of the examination room. At this time, Li Mengyao just came down from upstairs when she saw the familiar Maybach. A sweet smile appeared on her face and she walked forward quickly. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly blocked her way. "Hello sister, are you also applying to Haitian District No. 1 Primary School?" asked the strange woman. The woman in front of her was obviously much older than Li Mengyao, and looked like someone who had taken many exams. "Yes, what can I do for you?" Li Mengyao asked, puzzled. "Oh, nothing special, I just want to ask which position you are applying for," asked the strange woman. "I applied to be a Chinese teacher," Li Mengyao answered truthfully. "Then, may I ask about your interview results?" the strange woman continued to ask. "Interview test results are announced on the spot. When Li Mengyao heard this, she thought it was such a sensitive topic. Of course she wouldn't say it honestly. So she smiled and said softly, I didn't do very well in the test, only over 70 points. After hearing this, the strange woman was obviously relieved and said with a smile, is that so? That's all right? Thank you. Then Li Mengyao walked around her and went straight into the arms of Lin Xuan, who had been waiting at the door. Wife, how did you do in the exam? Lin Xuan asked gently. Li Mengyao smiled brightly and answered happily, I did quite well in the exam. Lin Xuan doted on Li Mengyao's face and asked with a smile, how much is good? Li Mengyao gently slapped Lin Xuan's hand away, then stood on tiptoe, put her little mouth close to Lin Xuan's ear, and whispered a number. When Lin Xuan heard this number, his eyes widened and he shouted in surprise, what? 91 points. The sound was so loud that it attracted the attention of people around. Li Mengyao was so scared that she quickly stretched out her little hand to cover Lin Xuan's mouth, then looked back nervously. She saw the strange woman looking at her in shock. Honey, let's get in the car first. Li Mengyao took Lin Xuan's arm, and they walked towards the Maybach parked at the door together. After Lin Xuan opened the car door and let Li Mengyao get in, he also got into the driver's seat. After starting the car, Lin Xuan stepped on the accelerator and slowly drove towards Haitian Yijing. On the way, Li Mengyao couldn't help but scolded. Husband, why did you shout so loudly just now? Xuan was driving the car attentively while saying nonchalantly, my wife is so amazing. Why can't I yell? Everyone heard it. Li Mengyao glared at Lin Xuan. Then, Li Mengyao continued, when I just came out, a girl stopped me and asked me about my interview results. Lin Xuan asked curiously, then did you tell me, wife? Li Mengyao smiled proudly and replied, of course I won't tell the truth. I just said I only got over 70 points. After hearing this, Lin Xuan burst into laughter. It seems that my wife is quite smart. I'm not stupid. Li Mengyao turned around and glared at Lin Xuan fiercely. If he wasn't driving, she would have taken action long ago. Chapter 238 Flower Sea. After the two returned home, Li Mengyao couldn't wait to go to the crib and start taking care of Dabao and Xiaobao. She felt a little guilty because she had less time to spend with her children during this period because of exams. Now she has completed the interview, and based on her interview results, she will definitely be admitted. However, her results will not be announced until a week later, and I won't officially start work until September. It's only April now, which means she still has 5 months to accompany her baby wholeheartedly. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile happily. My baby's mommy can finally spend time with you, Li Mengyao said gently. At the same time, Lin Xuan was busy in the kitchen preparing lunch for today. He opened the refrigerator and took out the best marbled beef, as well as pork belly, tenderloin, lamb leg and chicken wings. Then he brought out a baking tray and placed it carefully on the dining table. He wants to make a delicious barbecue for his wife at noon today. Lin Xuan skillfully cut various meats into thin slices and placed them neatly on the plate. And he prepared a special sauce for dipping the meat. Soul juice. Pour it on. After a while, Lin Xuan took out a few plates of fresh lettuce and placed them on the table. And shouted, it's time to eat. Chen Xiaolan and Li Mengyao rushed over after hearing the noise. Honey, do we have barbecue for lunch today? Li Mengyao asked Lin Xuan with surprise. Well, your favorite meat. Lin Xuan replied with a smile. Chen Xiaolan looked at the sizzling meat on the grill and couldn't help but feel a little worried. Won't I get irritated if I eat this? She originally wanted to say something to her son. But when she saw her daughter-in-law so happy, she gave up the idea. Just make a pot of herbal tea in the afternoon. Every southern mother who sees her child eating food that causes irritation will say to him, my son, you are too irritated, let me make some herbal tea first. Then Lin Xuan skillfully picked up a few slices of marbled beef, dipped them in a little secret sauce, and then wrapped them with lettuce. He gently handed the delicacy to Li Mengyao and said softly, wife, try it and see if it tastes good. Li Mengyao opened her mouth slightly, took a bite, and savored the delicious taste. Her eyes gradually opened wide and a look of satisfaction spread across her face. Delicious, she exclaimed vaguely, intoxicated by the food in her mouth. Seeing this, Shang Xilan curiously followed her son's example, picked up a few slices of Wagyu beef, mixed them with some garlic, dipped them in sauce, wrapped them in lettuce, and ate them in one bite. Suddenly, a whole new world seemed to open up to her taste buds, and the wonderful taste instantly bloomed on the tip of her tongue. Her eyes lit up and she couldn't help but exclaim, it's really delicious. When the grilled meat and the crispy cabbage meet in your mouth, it seems as if the taste buds are dancing happily on the tip of your tongue at that moment, and every bite is full of happiness and satisfaction. Chen Xiaolan couldn't help but sigh that young people nowadays really know how to eat. In the afternoon, Li Mengyao and her best friend Liu Xian went out shopping, had dinner, sank ADV, and enjoyed a happy time. I completely released the tension of the last 2 months and had a great day. The next morning, the sunlight gently shone into the house through the window, and everything seemed exceptionally peaceful and beautiful. At this moment, Li Mengyao was still hugging Lin Xuan tightly, immersed in a sweet dream. In the past 2 months, I got up early to read and study. Today she slept in. A rare occasion. 2 hours later, the beauty woke up. Li Mengyao slowly sat up, raised her arms, and stretched comfortably. I slept so comfortably last night, Li Mengyao murmured softly. Then, she turned her head and saw Lin Xuan still lying on the bed. She couldn't help but laugh and teased. Hey, husband, why have you become a lazy bud too? Lin Xuan smiled and said, I also want to get up early. But you have been holding me so tightly that I can't even go to the toilet. Hearing this, Li Mengyao's face instantly flushed. Then you should go now. Lin Xuan showed a sly smile on his face, then quickly sat up, took the opportunity to kiss his wife, and hurried to the bathroom. Next, the two went to the restaurant for breakfast. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao with a smile and said, Wife, I'll take you somewhere later. Li Mengyao sipped her porridge and asked curiously, Where are you going? Lin Xuan smiled mysteriously and replied, I won't tell you yet. Li Mengyao pouted in dissatisfaction and muttered, So mysterious again. Half an hour later, Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao's hand and slowly walked towards the back garden of the villa. Li Mengyao's eyes were covered with black gauze, making it difficult for her to see outside, but she vaguely felt that she seemed to be walking towards her own back garden. She couldn't help but ask, Husband, what kind of surprise is this? Why do you have to cover my eyes? Lin Xuan replied gently, Wife, we will be there soon, slow down. He continued to hold Li Mengyao's hand and led her to a place. Finally, Lin Xuan said softly, Okay, this is it. Then, he gently removed the black gauze on Li Mengyao's eyes. Li Mengyao narrowed her beautiful eyes slightly, then slowly opened them, and was instantly shocked by the scene before her. Wherever she looked, there was an endless expanse of brilliant colors, like a giant painting painted by nature slowly unfolding before her eyes. Red is like fire, passionate and unrestrained. Pink is like clouds, delicate and charming. Yellow is like gold, dazzling. Purple is like a dream, mysterious and elegant. Tulips of various colors are blooming, closely dependent on each other and intertwined with each other, forming a colorful sea of flowers. The breeze blows gently, and ripples appear in the sea of flowers. The flowers sway lightly, emitting a faint fragrance, as if whispering the secret of spring. At this moment, Li Mengyao is in this sea of flowers, surrounded by thousands of tulips, each of which is like a carefully crafted work of art. The sunlight shines on the sea of flowers, making them shine brightly, as if they were gems inlaid on the earth, sparkling brightly. Wow! Li Mengyao cheered with joy and ran briskly in the colorful sea of tulips. Not far from Lin Xuan, she stopped, turned around, gently pushed her hair behind her ears, and said with a bright smile, Husband, when did you plant this? Lin Xuan smiled slightly. When you go to training. As soon as she finished speaking, Li Mengyao started up quickly, ran towards Lin Xuan, stretched out her arms and hugged his neck tightly. Lin Xuan hurriedly hugged Li Mengyao's slender waist. The two looked at each other affectionately, and then happily spun around in a sea of gorgeous tulips. At the same time, their happy laughter echoed throughout the flower field. Chapter 239 Plum Sauce. Stop turning. Stop turning. I'm going to feel dizzy. Li Mengyao was held and spun around by Lin Xuan, with a sweet smile on her face. After hearing her words, Lin Xuan slowly stopped and gently put her on the ground. Li Mengyao, who had just touched the ground, was still a little unsteady. Lin Xuan quickly reached out his hand again and hugged her tightly, fearing that she would fall. Li Mengyao also closed her beautiful eyes and pressed her little face against Lin Xuan's solid chest. Wife, Lin Xuan called softly, his voice full of tenderness. Li Mengyao slowly raised her head and looked at Lin Xuan gently. After hearing that, Lin Xuan lowered his head slightly and gently touched her soft cheek with his forehead. Both of them could clearly feel each other's slight breathing. Let's hold our wedding here next month. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao affectionately again, his eyes full of expectation and love. After hearing this, Li Mengyao was so moved that her eyes became moist and a layer of mist covered her beautiful eyes. Okay, she answered softly, then raised her head slightly and took the initiative to kiss Lin Xuan. Their lips were pressed tightly together. It was an extremely gentle and long kiss. The sea breeze sang softly. The fragrance of flowers filled the air, and their kiss was like a gift from nature, pure and passionate. In this beautiful moment, love blends into one with the sea of flowers and the sea breeze, blooming with endless splendor. After their lips parted, Lin Xuan reached out and gently stroked Li Mengyao's cheek. Then, Lin Xuan picked up Princess Li Mengyao and slowly walked towards a gorgeous European-style garden pavilion in the back garden. The pavilion is surrounded by blooming tulips, colorful and fragrant, like a dreamy fairyland. Lin Xuan gently placed Li Mengyao on the chair in the pavilion, and he walked aside and mysteriously took out a guitar from a corner. Lin Xuan gently plucked the strings of the piano, adjusted the tone, then turned to look at Li Mengyao. Honey, are there any good songs today? Li Mengyao smiled. her eyes sparkling with anticipation, and she looked particularly happy. Yeah, Lin Xuan nodded with a smile. He sat next to Li Mengyao, his fingers gently pressing on the guitar, and strings of beautiful notes flowed out like clear springs. Li Mengyao leaned quietly on Lin Xuan, closed her eyes, and listened to the beautiful melody. Her face was filled with a happy smile as she enjoyed the tranquility and beauty of the moment. Lin Xuan's singing voice sounded along with the sound of the guitar, melodious and beautiful, like the sound of nature. Leaning on the branches, a dragonfly alights on the dew to cool off. Under the plum tree after the confession, the soil sprouted. Extremely beautiful. Lin Xuan turned to look at Li Mengyao's smiling face, and then continued to play and sing. Your faint smile is like plum jam. I tasted the mint on your lipstick. It is sweet love that comes so surely. Because of your every shy reaction. The sweet song Black Plum Sauce is dedicated to Li Mengyao. At this time, Li Mengyao lay on Lin Xuan and said softly, I want to learn to sing too. Lin Xuan raised his lips slightly and looked at her lovingly. Just have your husband sing for you. You don't have to learn. However, Li Mengyao refused to give and she shook her head coquettously and said, no, I must learn it. Her bright eyes blinked, full of determination and resolve. Lin Xuan was amused by her cute appearance and asked curiously, why? Li Mengyao raised her head slightly and looked at Lin Xuan, her eyes revealing a hint of shyness and expectation. And she said softly, I want to sing for you at the wedding. These words instantly melted Lin Xuan's hair. That gently took Li Mengyao into his arms and said affectionately, okay, your husband will teach you. His hands gently stroked Li Mengyao's hair, feeling her warmth and tenderness. That afternoon, the sun was shining, the breeze was blowing, the sea was sparkling, and a luxury yacht RE-88 was sailing slowly on the sea. Shu Quan stood on the deck excitedly, opened his arms, and shouted towards the sea breeze, oh, stop yelling and come over here to discuss something important together. At this time, Zhang Zhisheng shouted to Shu Quan in the leisure area. Hearing the call, Shu Quan quickly walked to the leisure area and found a place to sit down. Brother Xuan, you actually bought a yacht, Shu Quan said in surprise. Lin Xuan smiled slightly and replied, I saw it was on sale before, so I bought it. Shu Quan couldn't help but sigh. Brother Xuan is still so rich. By the way, what important matter are you discussing? Shu Quan asked. Lin Xuan looked at everyone and said with a smile, I am planning to hold my wedding next month. And I would like you to be my best man then. Upon hearing the news, everyone showed surprise. Brother Xuan, are you finally going to have your wedding? Chen Jingming said. Yes, it took a long time. Lin Xuan nodded. Then Lin Xuan asked everyone, by the way, do you have any good suggestions? As soon as he finished speaking, Shu Quan, Zhang Zhisheng and Chen Jingming began to talk non-stop and express their opinions. Three people who are obviously not married. At the same time, on the other side of the city, Li Mengyao was sitting in a popular internet celebrity dessert shop. Her best friends surrounded her and the atmosphere was warm and cheerful. Yao Yao, are you going to have a wedding? Liu Yuxian asked in surprise. Li Mengyao smiled and nodded, with happiness shining in her eyes. Well, Lin Xuan and I are planning to schedule our wedding for next month. Wow, Yao Yao, congratulations. Yang Ling clapped her hands excitedly. That's right, Yao Yao, your wedding is finally coming, Chen Man said with a smile. Li Mengyao looked at them gratefully. Thank you. Actually, I asked you out today because I wanted you to be my bridesmaids. Of course, that's fine. How can Yao Yao's wedding be without us? We will definitely protect Yao Yao well. The sisters all expressed their willingness. Then, Li Mengyao asked curiously, do you have any good ideas or experiences to share about weddings? Yang Lin thought for a moment and replied, I have attended many other people's weddings and can give you some advice. You can find a professional wedding company. They will carefully plan a romantic wedding for you according to your needs and budget. Chen Man agreed. Yes, this can save a lot of trouble. Moreover, if you are not satisfied with the plan, you can ask for modifications until you are satisfied. At this time, Liu Yuxian added, the most famous wedding company in Jinghe City should be Yongheng Love Song Wedding Studio Yao Yao. You and Lin Xuan can go there to find out more. Li Mengyao nodded thoughtfully and continued to raise her fork to eat the delicious cake. Chapter 240, The Eternal Promise of the Heart of the Ocean. The next day, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao drove a Lamborghini to one of the most famous wedding companies in Jinghe City, Eternal Love Song Wedding Studio. The appearance of Eternal Love Song Wedding Studio is like a flower of love blooming in the world. The architectural lines are soft and smooth, with green ivy climbing on the white walls, just like the tenacity and vitality of love. Colorful balloons float on the roof, dancing in the wind. The pink walls are surrounded by flowers, exuding a charming fragrance. On the huge signboard, the four words, Eternal Love Song, shine with warm light, like a beacon of love. As soon as Lin Xuan drove into the door in his Lamborghini, a young doorman came up to greet him enthusiastically. Welcome. Please come this way, the parking space has been prepared for you. Lin Chuan rolled down the window and said thank you. After parking the car, Lin Chuan took Li Mengyao's hand and walked into the Eternal Love Song wedding studio. Immediately, a young and beautiful female salesperson came up to them. Hello? Guess my name is Liu Yan, how can I help you? Liu Yan asked with a smile. We would like to learn about the wedding services here, Lin Chuan said. Okay, we provide a full range of wedding services, including wedding planning, venue layout, wedding photography, wedding banquet reservations and so on. Which aspect are you more interested in? Liu Yan introduced. We all want to know, Lin Chuan said. That's great. First, let me show you around our venue. As Liu Yan spoke, she took Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao to visit the internal facilities of the Eternal Love Song wedding studio. The interior decoration style of Eternal Love Song wedding studio is unique, full of romance and warm atmosphere. The hall is decorated with exquisite floral arrangements and wedding photos of the newlyweds hang on the walls, giving people a sense of happiness. The banquet hall is spacious and bright, and can accommodate hundreds of people dining at the same time. The stage is equipped with advanced sound equipment and lighting systems, which can create a fantastic atmosphere. Then, Liu Yan introduced their wedding planning team to Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao. Our wedding planners are experienced and creative professionals who can tailor a unique wedding for you based on your needs and preferences, said Liu Yan. Finally, Liu Yan showed Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao their wedding photography works. Our photographers are all well-known masters in the industry and can capture your most beautiful moments and leave lasting memories. After the visit, Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao had a good initial impression of Eternal Love Song wedding studio. And Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao sat down and discussed the details of the wedding with Liu Yan. When will your wedding be held? Liu Yan asked with a smile. We are planning to hold it next month, but we haven't decided on the exact date yet. Next month? It's already the end of the month, and time is a bit tight, Liu Yan said. Because we have to queue for the venue here. We usually have to make a reservation about 3 months to 6 months in advance, Liu Yan continued. We plan to hold the wedding at our own home, so we don't need your venue, Lin Chuan said. That's fine, this way we don't have to wait too long. May I ask what your budget is for the wedding? Liu Yan said as she held a tablet computer and recorded it. How much is the most expensive set meal here? Lin Chuan asked with a smile. The most expensive one? Liu Yan couldn't help but look at them twice. The young couple in front of me, the boy is wearing simple casual clothes, and the girl is wearing a pink dress. Although they are both very good looking, judging from their clothes, they don't look like wealthy people who spend lavishly. She hesitated for a moment, but still replied with a smile. Our highest 10 package is the VIP package worth 1 million. Hearing the price, Lin Chuan couldn't help but frown slightly. Spending 1 million to hold a wedding for your wife seems a bit stingy. Liu Yan noticed the subtle change in Lin Chuan's expression and immediately introduced enthusiastically. In fact, we have many other cost-effective package services here, such as those between 100,000 and 500,000. You can also consider it. Lin Chuan did not respond after hearing this, but remained silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, Excuse me, do you have a more expensive package? More expensive? The saleswoman asked in surprise. She obviously did not expect Lin Chuan to have such a request. After all, a 1 million package is already considered a high-end product. And now the customer actually wants an even higher level package. Yes, I think a wedding with only 1 million is still a bit stingy for my wife, Lin Chuan said firmly. He turned his head and looked at Li Mengyao beside him tenderly, his eyes full of love and doting. Honey, there's no need to order such an expensive one. Li Mengyao put her little face close to Lin Chuan's arm and whispered. It's okay, honey, just listen to me. Lin Chuan said with a smile. His voice was gentle but firm, making Li Mengyao feel at ease. Li Mengyao had no choice but to nod obediently. Although she thought the price was a bit expensive, she believed in Lin Chuan's decision. Would you please make a wedding plan worth 3 million? Lin Chuan said to Liu Yan with a smile. 3 million? Liu Yan was so shocked that she almost screamed. She widened her eyes and looked at Lin Chuan in disbelief. Yes. 3 million. Lin Chuan confirmed again, his eyes revealing determination, without the slightest hesitation. Liu Yan took a deep breath and tried to calm down her shock. She knew that she had met a big customer and she had to do her best to meet their needs. Well, please wait a moment. I'll go and report to my leader. Liu Yan quickly stood up and trotted away. When she came back again, there was a middle-aged man in a well-dressed suit beside her. The middle-aged man was smiling and looked very professional and confident. Hello, both of you, I'm Chen Bin, the general manager of sales at Eternal Love Song Wedding Planner. Do you really want a wedding plan worth 3 million? Chen Bin asked with a smile, a hint of anticipation in his tone. Lin Chuan nodded and said firmly, yes. Hearing this answer, Chen Bin showed a satisfied smile on his face. He said, then please follow me. Afterwards, Lin Chuan took Li Mengyao by the hand and under the guidance of Chen Bin, came to the luxurious VIP room of Eternal Love Song Wedding Studio. The room is luxuriously decorated, full of romance and warmth. After entering the VIP room, Chen Bin asked the two to sit down and introduced enthusiastically, "This is the top service place of our Eternal Love Song Wedding Studio. We can provide you with the best wedding planning services." Then, he asked Li Yuyan to prepare some high-end drinks and high-end snacks and desserts for the two to taste. "We actually have a wedding plan for a luxury seaside villa worth 3 million, Chen Bin said as he turned on his computer and displayed the details of the plan. The theme is, the eternal promise in the heart of the ocean. Chapter 241 Wedding Dress. The site chosen for this scheme is a luxury beachfront villa with a private beach, extensive garden and luxurious facilities. Surrounded by the azure sea and golden sand, you and your loved ones can fully enjoy the beauty of nature. Chen Bin opened the PPT file in the computer and showed photos of the villa. In addition, we will also create a marine-themed venue layout for this villa, such as a romantic arched dolphin sculpture, a glass stage, etc. Here are some actual pictures for reference. Chen Bin switched to the next page, showing some actual pictures of the venue layout. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao looked at the screen carefully, with satisfied smiles on their faces. At the same time, we will also design a unique lighting solution based on the world's top sound system. Through carefully adjusted music and lighting effects, a romantic and warm atmosphere is created, allowing you and your guests to immerse themselves in the ocean of love, Chen Bin continued. And, we will invite an internationally renowned photography and videography team to use the most advanced equipment for filming, and equip helicopters for aerial photography to record your beautiful moments in all directions. At that time, a video will be made into a love story short film and played at the wedding, so that you and your guests can witness this beautiful love together. In terms of catering, we hired a world-renowned team of chefs to design a special wedding menu, allowing guests to taste top cuisine from all over the world. From exquisite French desserts to delicious seafood feasts, every dish is a feast for the taste buds, leaving you and your guests with unforgettable memories. In terms of clothing and styling, wedding gowns and formal wear are custom made by internationally renowned designers, using top quality fabrics and jewelry, and are also equipped with a top-notch styling team. In terms of guest services, we will provide each guest with a private butler service, arrange luxurious accommodation rooms, and offer a variety of entertainment activities so that they can fully enjoy this grand wedding. After the wedding, we will also produce a beautiful wedding documentary, a handmade diamond-encrusted album for the two of you, and custom-made portraits and pure gold statues to become the eternal symbol of your love. As expected of the sales manager of Eternal Love Song Wedding Studio, he can say so many words at once. Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao tenderly and asked softly, "Wife, what do you think?" Li Mengyao smiled and responded, "Husband, it's up to you to decide." After thinking for a moment, Lin Xuan asked Chen Bin, "Manager Chen, if we provide the venue and jewelry ourselves, how much money can we save?" Chen Bin carefully calculated the bill and replied, "If you provide these items yourself, it can be reduced by about 1 million yuan. Then we decided to provide the venue and jewelry ourselves, and the rest will be done according to the plan," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Hearing Lin Xuan's words, Chen Bin was slightly stunned, and then asked, "Mr. Ellen, where is the venue you provide? If the area and style are not suitable, the wedding effect may be greatly reduced." Lin Xuan smiled and replied, "We live in Haitian Yijing, and there happens to be a beachfront villa there." Haitian Yijing? Chen Bin's eyes widened, and he was completely stunned. That's a beachfront villa worth 200 million. He never thought that Lin Xuan actually had such a luxurious residence. Haitian Yijing was the top villa area in the entire city, bar none. It took me a while to come to my senses. Chen Bin finally came back to his senses from his shock. He quickly said to his assistant Shai Kaun, "Go under Gemma Ellen to complete the contract as soon as possible." After saying that, he turned his head and continued to say to Lin Xuan with a smile, "Mr. Ellen, I didn't expect that you actually live in Haitian Yijing. It as such an honor." Lin Xuan smiled slightly, without much explanation, and said lightly, "Nothing. It's just an ordinary home." Then, he looked at Chen Bin and asked, "Manager Chen, can we take a look at the dress and wedding gown now?" Chen Bin nodded repeatedly and said, "Of course, please follow me." As he spoke, he led Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao to a gorgeous cloakroom. There are all kinds of dresses and wedding gowns displayed here, which are dazzling. But after careful observation, Lin Xuan found that although these clothes looked very exquisite, there was nothing particularly outstanding about them and they were similar to the common styles on the market. Lin Xuan frowned slightly. "Is this the design by an international master?" After seeing this, Chen Bin hurriedly explained, "This is just the cloakroom for the ordinary wedding package. Go inside and you will find the cloakroom for the distinguished VIP room." Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao and continued walking forward, and soon they came to a golden door. Chen Bin took out the key with a smile, opened the door skillfully, and made a please gesture gracefully. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao walked into the room hand in hand. As soon as they entered the hall, they were shocked by the scene before them. The entire hall is decorated magnificently, with golden decorations and bright lights complementing each other, creating a luxurious and romantic atmosphere. However, the most eye-catching thing was the brand new dress and wedding gown placed in the center of the hall. They were displayed there quietly, like two shining pearls, emitting dazzling light, instantly attracting all the attention of Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao. The bride's wedding dress seemed like a dream work that came from the depths of the ocean, so beautiful that it was breathtaking. The bodice is designed with a corset, crafted from the finest French lace, which is embroidered with delicate waves and shells and shimmers with tiny crystals. The neckline is a heart-shaped top, which can subtly highlight the bride's beautiful collarbone line. The skirt of the wedding dress is made of layers of tulle, showing a gradient from light to dark blue, like the different layers of the ocean. Each layer of tulle is dotted with pearls and diamonds, like the twinkling stars on the sea, making the entire skirt sparkle with charming light. The groom's suit was a classic white tuxedo style. The top is tailored to be slim-fitting, showing off the groom's tall and straight figure and elegant demeanor. The neckline has an exquisite wing collar design, paired with a white bow tie. It looks elegant and solemn. The fabric of the suit is made of top-grade silk, which is smooth and delicate, exuding a soft luster, giving people a feeling of nobility and elegance. And on the pocket of the shirt is a blue ocean-style brooch made of crystals and pearls, which is crystal clear, like a flower blooming from the sea. Fresh and refined. The pants are straight-like style, with a length that just reaches the shoe upper paired with white leather shoes. They are simple and elegant, complementing the top. The overall look is fashionable yet steady. This is the latest wedding dress designed by an internationally renowned designer for our Eternal Love Song wedding studio to match the $3 million beachfront luxury villa wedding plan. Chen Bin introduced proudly. Chapter 242. A talented man and a beautiful woman are a perfect match. When Chen Bin saw the satisfied looks in their eyes, he couldn't help but feel a little happy. He quickly took out a contract and handed it to Lin Xuan, saying, "Mr. if you are satisfied with this plan, you can finalize it now. This is the contract I just prepared. Please take a look." Lin Xuan came back to his senses, took the contract and read it carefully. After a careful review, Lin Xuan confirmed that there was no problem with the contract, so he signed his name without hesitation and paid the corresponding deposit. "Thank you very much for your trust and support," Chen Bin said with a smile, gratitude flashing in his eyes. Then, Chen Bin smiled and said to the two of them, "Then please try them on for a while, and then our top photographer will take wedding photos for you, which will be included in the wedding invitations." Afterwards, the two were taken to different dressing rooms by the staff and began to change their clothes. After changing their clothes, they were taken to the dressing room by the staff, where a top makeup team carefully sculpted their hairstyles. Half an hour later, Lin Xuan, like a bright star, was the first to shine out from the men's dressing room nearby. He was wearing a white suit, and his tall and straight figure looked as slender as a poplar against the backdrop of the suit, and his handsome face looked as radiant as the bright moon against the white backdrop. Every step he takes exudes confidence and calmness, and people can't help but be attracted by his style. When Mr. puts on this suit, he really looks like a handsome god standing in the wind. Chen Bin couldn't help but praise. "Thank you." Lin Xuan smiled slightly. "How is it? Does it still fit?" Chen Bin asked. "It fits well," Lin Xuan said. At this moment, the door of the women's dressing room opposite was slowly opened. When Li Mengyao slowly walked out in her dreamy wedding dress that looked like the ocean, Han seemed to freeze for a moment. Her beauty is so dazzling that people can't help but be attracted by her. The entire space seemed to be illuminated by the light emanating from her, and everyone was unable to look away, immersed in her beauty. With every light step she took, the flickering light on her wedding dress swayed gently like waves, dazzling and dazzling. At this moment, Lin Xuan was completely attracted by the scene before him, his eyes fixed on Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao walked slowly to Lin Xuan with an affectionate smile on her face. She stretched out her slender fingers, gently stroked Lin Xuan's face, and said softly, "Husband, are you stunned?" Lin Xuan came back to his senses, held Li Mengyao's hand tightly, and said with a smile, "Wife, you are so beautiful." The sincere emotion in his voice made Li Mengyao feel extremely warm. "Honey, you look so handsome in this dress," Li Mengyao said with a smile. Chen Bin at the side could not help but exclaimed, "You two are really a perfect match made in heaven." Hearing this, Li Mengyao said to Chen Bin gratefully, "Thank you." Then, she turned to look at Lin Xuan, and they smiled at each other, their tacit understanding and love for each other beyond words. "Next, we will start taking wedding photos. Please follow me." Chen Bin smiled and led them to the shooting location. Afterwards, under his leadership, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao came to an ocean-themed scene carefully created by Eternal Love Song Wedding Studio. The scene is like a dreamlike underwater world, which makes people intoxicated. They arrived at the entrance and saw a huge blue arch standing before them, as mysterious and attractive as the entrance to the ocean. The door is decorated with glowing seaweed, emitting a faint blue light, as if elves in the ocean are dancing. On both sides of the arch are two lifelike dolphin sculptures. They seem to be jumping out of the sea happily, welcoming every guest into this magical ocean world. Walking into the scene, the first thing that catches your eye is a sparkling undersea ground, as if it were paved with tiny sapphires. When they stepped on it, they felt the ground beneath their feet tremble slightly, as if they were really in the rough sea. Above your head, there is a huge dome that simulates a deep ocean sky, with dreamy jellyfish-shaped balloons floating in it. The surrounding walls are decorated to look like underwater reefs and coral reefs, colorful and in various shapes. At this time, the photographer had been waiting here for a long time. He warmly greeted Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao and guided them to stand in the best position of the scene. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao had a great understanding at each other. After looking at each other and smiling, they posed as requested by the photographer. Lin Xuan slowly lowered his head and gently kissed Li Mengyao on the forehead. A hint of shyness and sweetness appeared on her face, and at the same time, she was filled with a happy smile. There was also Lin Xuan, who held Li Mengyao's hand tightly and raised it high above his head, while Li Mengyao happily spun around on the spot, showing her agile posture. Lin Xuan also gently hugged Li Mengyao's slender waist. She tilted her body slightly, and they both looked at the camera with smiles on their faces. The photographer captured this beautiful moment. After the shooting, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned to the dressing room and changed back into their original clothes. At this time, Chen Bin came over with the photos he had just taken, handed them to them with a smile and said, "Dear guests, take a look at these photos. Do you like any of them?" Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao took the photos and looked at each one carefully. When Lin Xuan saw one of the photos, the corners of his mouth unconsciously rose. That was the moment when he kissed Li Mengyao's forehead, and the photographer captured the picture. Li Mengyao was also attracted by this photo, and she thought this moment was very beautiful. So, they both chose this photo as the cover of their wedding invitation. Seeing that they had chosen the photos, Chen Bin smiled and asked, "So, when do you plan to hold your wedding? Next month? We need to prepare in advance." Lin Xuan touched his chin and began to think. Chapter 243, Dragon and Phoenix. Next month happens to be May, so how about May 20th? Because 520 is pronounced the same as I love you. Thinking of this, Lin Xuan couldn't help but get excited. He turned to Li Mengyao and said, "Wife, how about we set our wedding date on May 20th? Yeah." After hearing Lin Xuan's words, Li Mengyao nodded slightly to show her agreement and showed a sweet smile. After getting his wife's affirmation, Lin Xuan said to Chen Bin happily, "Manager Chen, let's set the date on May 20th. At Heishan Yijing Villa in Jingha City. Also, please prepare 50 invitations in advance," Lin Xuan added. "Okay, I'll arrange it right away." Chen Bin carefully wrote down Lin Xuan's request. After everything was arranged, Lin Xuan took Li Mengyao's hand and walked out of the Eternal Love Song wedding studio. "Have a safe trip, both of you. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me." Chen Bin sent the two of them outside and blessed them with a smile. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned to the Lamborghini, and were about to leave when Lin Xuan's cell phone rang. He opened it and found it was the head of the family. So he quickly answered the call. "Mom, what's the matter?" Lin Xuan said. "Son, where are you now? Do you want me to cook first?" Shang Xiaolan said. "Mengyao and I are at the wedding company now, and are about to go back. You don't have to do anything yet." Lin Xuan panicked when he heard that his mother was going to cook. "It seems that my mom's hands are itching again recently." "Okay then, are you and Mengyao planning to have a Western-style wedding or a Chinese-style wedding?" Shang Xiaolan asked. "Of course it's Western style," Lin Xuan answered subconsciously, but he suddenly froze halfway through his words. "Why can't we combine Chinese and Western styles? You can use Chinese style when picking up the bride and Western style when holding the wedding. This not only satisfies the traditional sense of ceremony, but also adds some modern romantic atmosphere. Western style is fine too. When are you going to prepare?" Shang Xiaolan was about to ask when the wedding would be held when she was interrupted by Lin Xuan. "Mom, Mengyao and I suddenly remembered something, and we'll be back later. You can cook first. Remember, Mom, just do it normally and don't try to innovate," Lin Xuan instructed. I know, come back early," Shang Xiaolan said. The brat disliked the food he cooked again. At this time, Shang Xiaolan was standing in the kitchen, looking down at the pineapple in her hand, thinking about making a pineapple fried meat. "Forget it. Husband? Aren't we going back now?" Li Mengyao turned and looked at Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan looked at her with a smile, his eyes flickering with tenderness. "Wife, I suddenly thought of an idea. How about we have another Chinese-style wedding?" "Chinese wedding?" Li Mengyao asked in surprise, with a surprised expression on her face. "Well, here's what I think. When we pick up the bride, we wear Chinese-style XIUE clothes, and when we hold the wedding, we wear wedding dresses. This way, it's a combination of Chinese and Western weddings. Lin Chuan explained his ideas with great interest. Won't that cost a lot of money? Li Mengyao lowered her eyes and thought for a moment. Lin Chuan smiled slightly, stretched out his arms and hugged Li Mengyao tightly into his arms. Money is meant to be spent. And it's especially worth spending it on your wife. Thank you, husband. Li Mengyao hugged Lin Chuan's neck, hanging her delicate body on Lin Chuan, feeling his warmth and love. Thank you, husband, for taking practical action. Lin Chuan showed a wicked smile and gently pinched Li Mengyao's pretty nose. I just want a kiss, Li Mengyao said cockathiously with a blushing face. She looked so cute when she was angry. Lin Chuan raised the corner of his mouth, touched Li Mengyao's forehead and kissed her gently. And the two got out of the car and walked back into the Eternal Love Song wedding studio. Lin Chuan took out his cell phone and called Manager Chen. Hello, Ellen? Do you have any other instructions? Chen Bin asked respectfully. I'm back in the lobby of Eternal Love Song wedding studio. Are you free now? Lin Chuan said. Upon hearing this, Chen Bin quickly said, yes, I'll be right there. After saying that, he immediately put down the work at hand and hurried to the hall. Along the way, he was secretly wondering in his heart, could it be that Ellen wanted to cancel the order? Not long after, Chen Bin appeared in front of Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao, panting. Sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. Chen Bin wiped the sweat from his forehead. Lin Chuan smiled and said, Manager Chen, there's no need to be so hasty. Chen Bin smiled and replied, it's okay, customers are our priority. Do you have any other requests? Lin Chuan asked, excuse me, are there any XIUE clothes here? When Chen Bin heard this question, he immediately felt relieved. It turned out that a new order had arrived. He answered enthusiastically, of course. What style of XIUE clothing do you need? Can you show us your most expensive one? Lin Chuan looked at Chen Bin seriously. Li Mengyao beside him couldn't help but widen his eyes after hearing this, and muttered to himself, why do you want to buy the most expensive one again? The last wedding dress was expensive enough, will it be even more expensive this time? Chen Bin was slightly startled, but then regained his composure. He smiled and replied, of course. Sir, the most expensive Chinese dress in our store is called Dragon in Phoenix, and it costs 1 million RMB. This dress is a masterpiece of our Eternal Love Song wedding studio in the field of Chinese dress design. It is not only exquisitely crafted, but also unique, and can definitely satisfy your pursuit of quality and uniqueness. After hearing this, Lin Chuan nodded, his lips slightly raised, revealing a satisfied smile. He turned to look at Li Mengyao and said gently, wife, let's go take a look. Although Li Mengyao was a little surprised at the price, she nodded obediently. She knew that Lin Chuan always had extremely high requirements for quality, and as long as he liked something, he would buy it without hesitation. Okay. Both of you please follow me. So, Chen Bin took Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao into the luxurious VIP room. They walked through a wide corridor and arrived at a large door on the other side. This door is also beautifully decorated, with golden patterns inlaid on it, exuding a noble and elegant atmosphere. Chen Bin gently pushed open the door, and Lin Chuan and Li Mengyao walked in. The room is filled with various exquisite Chinese dresses, each of which exudes a strong traditional cultural atmosphere. However, what attracted their attention most was an extremely luxurious set of XIUE suits for the bride and groom located in the center of the hall. This is our Dragon Auspicious Phoenix Auspicious XIUE costume. Chapter 240. For did you make this pineapple fried meat? The groom's suit is named Long Xian, and is made of rare 1,000-year-old ice silk. It is as light as mist, yet extremely tough. This fabric not only has good breathability and comfort, but also emits a unique luster. The golden dragon embroidered on the garment has each dragon scale inlaid with top-grade emerald gemstones, and the dragon eyes are 2 rare pigeon blood-red rubies, shining brightly and captivating. The choice of gemstones and their setting has been carefully planned and selected to evoke the highest quality of luxury. The collar and cuffs are decorated with exquisite patterns made of pure gold, dotted with South Sea black pearls, exuding a mysterious and noble atmosphere. The design of these pure gold patterns is inspired by the costumes of ancient palaces and is made through exquisite craftsmanship, showing the ultimate delicacy and magnificence. The long-lost cord embroidery technique is used on the hem to embroider auspicious clouds, each of which is inlaid with flawless diamonds, reflecting colorful light in the sun. The design of these auspicious cloud patterns symbolizes good fortune and luck, and through the sparkle of diamonds and the fineness of embroidery, it creates a dreamy atmosphere. After Chen Bin finished his introduction, he said to Lin Chuan, I think Ellen is very suitable for this XIUE suit named Long Xian. After reading it, Lin Chuan nodded with satisfaction, and then asked, what about the bride's XIUE dress? Chen Bin continued to introduce. The bride's dress is called Feng Rui, and was carefully crafted by an ancient craftsman who has been passed down for hundreds of years and spent several years making it. The fabric is rare snow satin, as white and pure as snowflakes. and as smooth and delicate as silk. The feathers of the phoenix on the phoenix coronet and bridal robe are carved and inlaid with the finest jadeite, and are lifelike, as if they are about to spread their wings and fly high. The phoenix crown is adorned with pink pearls from the deep sea, each one is round and plump, emitting a soft luster. The edge of the shawl is strung with natural amethysts into gorgeous tassels, which are smart and elegant. The skirt is embroidered with beautiful floral patterns, giving it a fresh and elegant feel. Lin Xuan turned to Li Mengyao and asked gently, "Wife, do you like this Xiue suit?" Li Mengyao held Lin Xuan tightly with her small hands and said with a smile, "I like it very much." Her eyes were full of happiness and satisfaction, and her face was filled with a sweet smile. Lin Xuan looked at her and his heart was filled with joy. He gently held Li Mengyao's hand and said, "That's good, I hope you can wear this beautiful Xiue dress and become the happiest bride." Then Lin Xuan said to Chen Bin, "Manager Chen, we have bought this set of Dragon and Phoenix Xiue suit. Although a set of clothes cost him 1 million. But what Lin Xuan lacks the least is money. This seems a bit Versailles. Okay, do you two want to try them on now?" Chen Bin was delighted again. This was another big deal. "Okay, let's try it on." Afterwards, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao were taken to the locker room again and started changing clothes. After changing their clothes, because the makeup they had put on didn't match the Chinese-style Xiue clothing, they were taken to the dressing room to start putting on makeup. Half an hour later, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao walked out from the doors on both sides at the same time. Lin Xuan was wearing a long Xian Xiue suit. His posture was as straight as a pine tree, as if a dragon soaring among the clouds. His brows revealed a look of determination, and his every move showed the demeanor of a king. Li Mengyao was wearing a Rui Feng Xiue dress. Her face was as white as jade, and her eyes were as bright as stars. She was like a noble phoenix descending to the earth, showing her softness and grace to the fullest. The exquisite phoenix embroidery danced on her body, so beautiful that she looked like a fairy in a dream. The two slowly walked up to each other and stared at each other lovingly. Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's hand tightly, with a gentle smile on his face, and said softly, "Wife, you look so beautiful in this Xiue dress." Li Mengyao blinked her beautiful eyes slightly and asked cockathiously, "Compared to the wedding dress just now, which one is more beautiful?" Lin Xuan smiled and replied, "They are both beautiful, just in different styles." Li Mengyao also laughed and said gently, "Hubby, your clothes are also very handsome." And Chen Bin, who was standing aside, was fed a wave of dog food again. For the sake of performance, he has to endure. Afterwards, Chen Bin smiled and said, "You two are truly a perfect match, a perfect match." It was 12 noon. The sun was high in the sky, and the sunlight shone through the clouds, casting a bright light. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao finally returned to the door of their villa. Lin Xuan opened the door and shouted, "Mom, I'm back." Chen Shaolan, who heard the sound, came out of the kitchen with a reproachful look on her face and said, "Finally you're back, the food is getting cold." As she said this, she glared at Lin Xuan fiercely. However, when she turned her gaze to Li Mengyao, she immediately put on a friendly and enthusiastic smile and said, "Daughter-in-law, you must be hungry, come and prepare for dinner." Lin Xuan turned sideways and glanced towards the kitchen. He found that there seemed to be a pineapple placed on the kitchen countertop, and an ominous premonition arose in his heart. He asked cautiously, "Mom, you didn't innovate, did you?" Zhang Shaolan smiled, shook her head and replied, "No, my daughter-in-law is here, how can I dare to try new dishes easily?" After saying that, she turned and walked into the kitchen, brought out a pot of steaming corn and pork rib soup and placed it on the dining table. Lin Xuan's eyes widened, looking at Zhang Shaolan in disbelief, and protested, "You're treating your own son in an innovative way, right?" Zhang Shaolan returned to the kitchen, and brought out a plate of fragrant fish-flavored eggplant. She smiled and replied, "So what, I gave birth to you?" Lin Xuan shook his head helplessly and muttered, "Then you might as well just stuff me back into your stomach." Zhang Shaolan stopped what she was doing when she heard this and said seriously, "I say, you little bastard, hurry up and help me serve the dishes, and stop finding fault all day long." So Lin Xuan obediently walked into the kitchen to help serve the dishes and then clean up the bowls. Li Mengyao sat obediently on the chair, with a smile on her lips and a gentle light in her eyes. Then the family sat around the dining table and began to enjoy a delicious lunch. "Son, this soup spoon is too small, it can't hold much soup, go to the kitchen and get a bigger one," Zhang Shaolan instructed Lin Xuan while drinking soup. "Oh," Lin Xuan responded, stood up, and walked towards the kitchen happily. "Mom, did you make this pineapple fried pork?" Chapter 245. I won't do it next time. Zhang Shaolan held the chopsticks high in her hand, and was completely stunned. She muttered to herself, "How did this guy find it? I hid it very well." When she came to her senses, she stood up and hurried to the kitchen. However, Lin Xuan had already taken the lead and brought out the mysterious dish. "Mom, didn't you say you don't want to innovate?" Lin Xuan smiled with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Pineapple can be used to stir-fry meat. This is not considered innovation, Shen Xiaolan said stubbornly. It's true that pineapple can be used to stir-fry meat. But the pineapple you cooked, Mom, can't be used to stir-fry meat. Lin Xuan laughed at him mercilessly. Put it down, I'll eat it myself. Shen Xiaolan glared at Lin Xuan fiercely and shouted angrily. Lin Xuan had no choice but to put the plate of fried pineapple and pork on the dining table. And the three of them sat down again and continued to enjoy their lunch. Shen Xiaolan would occasionally pick up a piece of fried pineapple and meat and put it in her mouth. A painful expression instantly appeared on her face, but she still said stubbornly, "It's not that bad. Mom, your expression has betrayed you." Lin Xuan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Li Mengyao blinked her big eyes and looked at the plate of fried pineapple with pork, with a hint of curiosity and anticipation in her eyes. She asked softly, "Mom, can I have a taste?" When Shen Xiaolan heard this, she showed a surprised expression on her face and said in disbelief, "Daughter-in-law, do you want to eat?" Obviously, she was very surprised by Li Mengyao's request. Yeah, Li Mengyao nodded obediently. Lin Xuan was also shocked by his wife's reaction. He couldn't help but ask, "Wife, are you serious?" Li Mengyao smiled slightly and replied, "I just want to try it." She thought the dish didn't look bad, maybe it just looked a little strange. At this time, Lin Xuan admired his wife very much, as she actually took the initiative to ask for the dark food made by her mother. Shen Xiaolan said quickly, "Daughter-in-law, try it first. If you can't eat it, don't be stubborn." She knew that what she cooked was not tasty, but she still hoped that her daughter-in-law would try it. Li Mengyao gently picked up a piece of fried pineapple and meat and carefully put it into her little mouth. She closed her eyes slightly, preparing herself for the onslaught of flavors that this special dish would bring. However, when she took the first bite, an extremely sour feeling rushed straight to the top of her head. The strong sour taste made her taste buds lose balance instantly, and her smiling face instantly became distorted. The originally smiling face suddenly turned hideous. Lin Xuan shouted nervously, "Wife, what's wrong with you? Wife?" Shen Xiaolan also shouted anxiously, "Daughter-in-law, spit it out quickly." But Li Mengyao didn't want to embarrass her mother-in-law, so she swallowed it with difficulty and tried to force a smile. "Not bad, but a little sour. Wife, drink some water quickly." Lin Xuan hurriedly took Li Mengyao's cup and handed it to her. Li Mengyao quickly took the cup of water and started drinking it. The cool water slid down my throat, temporarily relieving the sour taste in my mouth. "Mom, you should have added more than just pineapple, right?" Lin Xuan picked up the pineapple fried pork, lowered his head and smelled it carefully, frowned slightly, and asked in confusion, "I accidentally added too much vinegar." Shen Xiaolan replied a little embarrassed lie. Lin Xuan's eyes widened in surprise. "Okay, this plate of pineapple fried pork is inedible. I'll go throw it away." After saying that, Lin Xuan shook his head helplessly, stood up, took the plate of pineapple fried pork to the kitchen and poured it out. Shen Xiaolan sat at the dining table, looking aggrieved like a child. She looked at Li Mengyao and said self-reproachfully, "Daughter-in-law, I'm sorry, I won't do it next time." "Mom, it's okay, it's not that bad if it weren't so sour," Li Mengyao comforted with a smile. Afterwards, the three continued to enjoy lunch. After lunch, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao returned to the master bedroom to rest. As soon as they entered the room, they saw that Dabao and Xiaobao, who were lying in the crib, had woken up and were trying to lift their heads. A little one seemed to notice the arrival of their parents and they waved their limbs excitedly and made sounds. "Oh, the baby is awake." Li Mengyao showed a surprised smile on her face. She walked forward quickly and gently picked up Dabao and Xiaobao. She looked at the children tenderly, her eyes full of maternal radiance. Dabao and Xiaobao seemed to feel their mother's love and opened their little mouths wide, obviously asking their mother for milk. "Are you hungry, baby?" Li Mengyao looked at the children tenderly, her eyes full of maternal love. Dabao and Xiaobao both opened their little mouths wide, obviously asking for milk. "Husband, go make some milk for the children." Li Mengyao turned her head and whispered to Lin Xuan. "Okay." Lin Xuan nodded and immediately turned and walked towards the kitchen. Then Lin Xuan went to prepare the milk powder. Soon, he returned with 2 warm bottles of milk. He handed a bottle to Li Mengyao, took one for himself, and started feeding Dabao and Xiaobao. Dabao and Xiaobao couldn't wait to put the pacifier in their mouths, opening and closing their little mouths, looking very cute. While they were trying hard to drink the milk, their eyes were darting around curiously. After feeding, Dabao burped tentatively, quickly closed his eyes and continued to sleep. Xiaobao stared with his big round eyes, looking around curiously, as if he didn't want to fall asleep yet. "Why aren't you sleeping, Xiaobao?" Li Mengyao gently rocked Xiaobao in her arms, with the corners of her mouth slightly raised, and asked softly, "Let daddy see." Lin Xuan lowered his head and moved close to Xiaobao's little face, his eyes full of fatherly love. At this moment, Xiaobao's vision was completely blocked by Lin Xuan's huge face, and he could no longer see his mother. I can't see my mom anymore. Xiaobao suddenly became restless. His originally calm face instantly frowned and his little mouth pouted. He stared at his father seriously, stretched out his little hands and placed them on Lin Xuan's face, then began to clench them tightly. As if he was fighting with his father. Why did Xiaobao hit daddy in the face? You're quite strong. Lin Xuan laughed. Really? Let me see too. Seeing this, Li Mengyao quickly pushed Lin Xuan out of Xiaobao's sight. As soon as Xiaobao saw his mother's face, he immediately broke into a bright smile. Xiaobao, why don't you smile at daddy? Lin Xuan said. And it must be that you often bully Xiaobao. Or mommy is the best to Xiaobao, right? Li Mengyao said with a smile, hugging Xiaobao gently and kissing his soft little face again and again. Xiaobao felt his mother's closeness and smiled even more happily, with his little eyes narrowed into slits, looking very cute. Chapter 246 Dad. You are a devil. Finally, Li Mengyao successfully coaxed Xiaobao to sleep. Then, Lin Xuan gently picked up Li Mengyao and lay down on the soft bed together. Li Mengyao's breathing was even and steady. Her breath gently brushed Lin Xuan's cheek, and soon she fell into a sweet dream. However, Lin Xuan remained sober, silently thinking about the wedding that would be held next month. Now, the wedding company has been confirmed. The wedding plan has been finalized, and the wedding dress and XIUE suit are ready. But I always feel like something is missing. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed through Lin Xuan's mind. Oh, and we also need a pair of gold wedding rings. Since you are buying a gold wedding ring, you should also prepare the matching gold necklace, gold bracelet and gold earrings so that they can match perfectly with the XIUE dress. As for the wedding dress, you can choose the priceless Ocean Heart necklace and Ocean Charmier chain that you gave to your wife before as decoration. But what about the diamond ring? The initial engagement diamond ring I bought was only 500,000 yuan, but now it seems a little low end. Well, then go pick out a more dazzling diamond ring. Lin Xuan imagined his wife wearing a gorgeous wedding dress and holding a grand wedding in the Haitian Yijing villa, and his heart was filled with joy. He lowered his head and looked at Li Mengyao, who was sleeping in his arms. Her face was so beautiful that it made people feel pity for her. Her skin was as white as snow, and her long eyelashes trembled slightly, as if she was infinitely gentle even in her sleep. Lin Xuan kissed Li Mengyao gently, and then they fell into a sweet dream together. In the afternoon, sunlight shone into the room through the window, and Lin Xuan was the first to wake up from his sleep. He slowly stood up, stretched, and then walked slowly to the lobby on the ground floor. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to get some iced drinks to quench his thirst, he suddenly heard a series of thudding sounds coming from the kitchen, as if someone was busy cutting vegetables inside. Lin Xuan gently pushed the door open. Mom? Lin Xuan called softly. Son, why are you getting up so early? Shang Shaolan's voice came from the kitchen. Mom, why do you start cooking dinner so early, and usually I'm the one who cooks dinner? Lin Xuan asked in surprise. Well, the food I cooked for Mengyao at noon today wasn't tasty. I want to make her a good meal in the evening, Shang Shaolan said, a little embarrassed. Lin Xuan glanced at the side of the kitchen and found a pineapple there. Mom, you're not still thinking about making fried pork with pineapple? No, that was left over from lunch, Shang Shaolan explained quickly. Lin Xuan couldn't help laughing when he saw his mother's nervous expression. He noticed that Shang Shaolan placed a tablet computer in front of him, with a cooking instruction video playing on the screen. She was watching the video while comparing the ingredients and steps, and operating carefully. Mom, let me teach you how to make fried pork with pineapple. Lin Xuan walked over with a smile, took the tablet from his mother's hand, and closed the cooking instructional video. Son, can you do it? Shang Shaolan said happily. Lin Xuan put on an apron, picked up the knife skillfully, and began to process the ingredients. He carefully sliced the tender pork into thin slices and cut the sweet and sour pineapple into small pieces. Lin Xuan explained the steps and demonstrated the movements, while Shang Shaolan studied carefully and asked questions from time to time. Night falls and the lights come on. Li Mengyao sat on the sofa in the living room, gently taking care of Dabao and Xiaobao in her arms. The little ones blinked their innocent eyes and babbled from time to time, filling the whole room with warmth and vitality. At this time, Shang Shaolan's voice came from the kitchen. Dinner is ready. Along with her cheerful shouts, delicious dishes were served on the table one after another. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao walked into the restaurant upon hearing the sound. And the scene before them made them feel bright. The table was filled with all kinds of delicious food. The aroma was so fragrant that it made people salivate. There were tender and juicy steamed grouper, delicate crab roe tofu, sweet and sour spare ribs, fat but not greasy braised pork, colorful pineapple fried meat, and rich and delicious mushroom and chicken soup, etc. Fried pork with pineapple. Li Mengyao had a bad feeling after seeing this. Daughter-in-law, the food I cooked for lunch was not delicious, but I will definitely not let you down tonight. Come and try it. Shang Shaolan greeted warmly. Wife, try it, it will taste different. Lin Xuan gave his wife a firm look. Li Mengyao nodded slightly, then picked up a piece of fried pineapple and meat, gently put it into her mouth and took a bite. In an instant, her beautiful eyes widened slightly and an expression of surprise appeared on her face. The moment you put the pineapple fried pork in your mouth, it feels like your taste buds are dancing happily on the tip of your tongue. The tender slices of meat are wrapped in the sweet fruity aroma of pineapple, creating an incomparable taste feast in the mouth. Every chew is an ultimate enjoyment, and every bite is a new discovery, making people immersed in this unique delicacy and unable to extricate themselves. Daughter-in-law, is it delicious? Shang Shulan asked with concern. Mom, it's delicious. Li Mengyao's face was filled with a satisfied smile and her eyes were shining with surprise. She couldn't help but stretch out her chopsticks again, picked up a piece of fried pineapple and meat and put it into her mouth, savoring the wonderful taste. If it tastes good, eat more. Shang Shulan looked at her daughter-in-law's reaction. Her heart filled with relief and a happy smile appeared on her face. Just then, the cries of Dabao and Xiaobao were heard from the living room. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao looked at each other, then hurriedly stood up, walked to the children, and gently picked them up. Babies, what's wrong? Li Mengyao asked gently, her eyes full of care. The two little guys kept their big eyes staring at the direction of the restaurant and waving their little arms, as if expressing something. It seems that Dabao and Xiaobao want to have dinner with us. Li Mengyao smiled gently, with a hint of pampering in her voice. And let's eat together, babies, just watch us eat. Lin Xuan said with a smile. Dabao? Xiaobao? Dad, you are a devil. Afterwards, Lin Xuan held Dabao and Li Mengyao held Xiaobao and sat in front of the restaurant and started to enjoy their delicious dinner. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao tasted the food and chatted quietly, enjoying a warm family time. Dabao and Xiaobao stood aside, staring at their parents eating with wide eyes, opening and closing their mouths from time to time, and making some cute noises. Chapter 247. Husband, there is a meteor shower tonight. The next morning, sunlight poured into the room through the gaps in the curtains, and Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao woke up in a warm atmosphere. After enjoying a hearty breakfast, they sat together on the sofa, playing with their mobile phones leisurely, and occasionally admiring the beautiful sea view in the distance through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows. At this moment, Li Mengyao saw a short video. Tonight, the annual Lyra meteor shower may appear over Jinghe City. It is known as one of the 7 largest meteor showers in the world. Li Mengyao shouted excitedly, "Honey, there is a meteor shower tonight." As she spoke, she held the phone in front of Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan looked at the video, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and turned his head to ask, "Does my wife want to watch it?" Li Mengyao nodded happily, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Yeah, I've never watched a meteor shower with my husband before." Lin Xuan smiled and moved closer to Li Mengyao, kissed her gently, and said softly, "Okay, I'll take you to see the meteor shower tonight." At this moment, Lin Xuan's cell phone suddenly rang urgently. He picked up the phone and answered the call. "Hello, Ellen. I hope I am not disturbing you?" The voice of Chen Bin, the sales general manager of Yonghangla Song Wedding Studio, came from the phone. "No, Manager Chen, is there anything I can help you with?" Lin Xuan asked slowly. "It's like this, we have already made the 50 invitations you requested in advance. Would it be convenient for us to send them to you now?" Chen Bin asked cautiously. "It's convenient, you can just send it directly to the Haitian Yijing Villa, thank you," Lin Xuan responded inferently. "Okay, we'll be there in half an hour, please wait for a moment," Chen Bin replied quickly. Then Lin Xuan hung up the phone. Turned his head and looked at Li Mengyao, who was sitting on the sofa, and said gently, "Wife, our wedding invitations are ready, send us 50 copies later." Upon hearing the news, Li Mengyao's beautiful eyes instantly rippled. She raised her head slightly, with a bright light in her eyes, and asked softly, "Really?" "Of course it's true." Lin Xuan pinched Li Mengyao's nose gently and said with a smile, "I'm so looking forward to it." Li Mengyao smiled brightly. Half an hour later, a Mercedes-Benz slowly drove into the Haitian Yijing Villa. When Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao arrived at the door, they saw Chen Bin holding an extremely large box quietly waiting for their arrival. "Manager Chen, please make this trip in person," Lin Xuan said. "How could that be? It is my honor to serve a distinguished VIP customer like you." Ellen. Chen Bin waved his hands quickly, a warm smile on his face. Lin Xuan couldn't help but sigh. "It's just an invitation, but not only do you drive a luxury car, but even the general manager of sales came in person. This treatment is really amazing. Thank you for the compliment, Ellen. This is just our basic service," Chen Bin replied modestly. "By the way, Mr. Lin, do you need to move this box in?" Chen Bin asked, pointing at the heavy box in his hand. "Of course, please come in." Lin Xuan nodded with a smile and led Chen Bin into the Haitian Yijing Villa. The moment he stepped into the villa, Chen Bin was immediately shocked by the luxurious scene before him. "Wow, it's Ellen. S villa is so luxurious, it's really breathtaking." After Chen Bin carefully placed the box in the middle of the living room, he looked around in amazement. "Thank you for the compliment, Manager Chen. Please stay and have a cup of tea," Lin Chuan said with a smile, then turned around to make tea. No, I still have something to do. So I won't disturb you, Ellen." Chen Bin waved his hand and refused. "Okay then, I'll take you there." Lin Chuan nodded. No. Chen Bin hurriedly said that he felt that this big client had no airs of a rich man at all and was very approachable. He admired Lin Chuan even more in his heart. In the end, Lin Chuan insisted on sending him to the door. After watching Chen Bin slowly drive away in the Mercedes-Benz, he turned around and returned to the villa. When Lin Chuan returned to the villa, he saw Li Mengyao sitting quietly on the sofa in the living room, waiting for him to come back. "Wife, why don't you open it and take a look first?" Lin Chuan walked over to Li Mengyao and sat down, put his arms around her slender waist, and asked gently, "Of course I have to watch this with my husband." Li Mengyao smiled brightly and answered softly. Her smile was like the warmest sunshine in spring, and like a clear spring flowing in Lin Chuan's heart, so beautiful that she seemed like a fairy from the heavens. "Then let's watch it together." Lin Chuan lowered his head and gently kissed her charming cherry lips again. Then he opened the big box and a light suddenly emanated. Inside was filled with neatly stacked wedding invitations, each of which exuded a special atmosphere. The covers of these invitations are in deep dark blue, like an endless ocean, giving people a sense of tranquility and mystery. On this blue background, a gorgeous seaside villa is carefully outlined using gold foil techniques. The villa's contours are smooth and the details are exquisite. The sunlight shines on the villa, shining with golden light, making it even more dazzling. The villa is surrounded by lifelike waves that seem to be jumping happily, adding a touch of liveliness and agility to the whole picture. Lin Chuan's mouth corners slightly raised. He took out an exquisite invitation from the box and gently handed it to Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao's eyes were full of anticipation, and her fingers gently stroked the surface of the envelope, feeling the special touch. Then she slowly opened the envelope, and a faint fragrance wafted into her nose. Opening the invitation, the left page presents the theme of the wedding in elegant handwritten fonts, the eternal promise of the heart of the ocean. The fonts are surrounded by patterns of starfish, shells and corals. These elements are colorful and realistic, as if you are in a beautiful underwater world. On the right page, the first thing that catches your eye is the sweet wedding photo of the newlyweds. Their happy smiles and affectionate eyes can't help but move people. The edge of the photo is decorated with a string of white pearls, adding a touch of elegance and romance. The date, time, location and schedule of the wedding are written in detail below, and each item is clear and concise. The text is written in light blue ink, which is as fresh as seawater, giving people a feeling of tranquility and comfort. On the back cover of the invitation, there is a pattern of a pair of cute dolphins playing in the sea. Their bodies are agile and they jump happily, as if they are blessing the newlyweds who are about to enter the marriage hall. The edge of the entire invitation is decorated with wavy patterns, as if it is the embrace of the sea, gentle and inclusive. Chapter 248. My greatest wish is right in front of me. Wow, this invitation is so exquisite. I'm a little reluctant to give it away. Li Mengyao looked at the invitation in her hand with joy, then turned to Lin Chuan and joked. Lin Chuan smiled and stretched out his hand, gently pinched Li Mengyao's face, and teased, "Who else can we send to our wedding?" Li Mengyao pouted mischievously and said, "Cocathus lie. I was just joking." Just then, Shang Shelin came down the stairs. She asked curiously, "What are you two looking at here?" Li Mengyao ran forward excitedly, took Shang Shelin's arm, and said happily, "Mom, our wedding invitations have been delivered." "Really? Let me see." As Shang Shelin spoke, she took out a wedding invitation from the box and looked at it carefully. After a while, Shang Shelin nodded with satisfaction and praised. "Well, this invitation is indeed very beautifully made, and my daughter-in-law's wedding photos are also very beautiful." "What about me?" Lin Chuan asked. "You are just so-so." Shang Shelin looked at Lin Chuan with disdain and said, "Lin Chuan." Time quickly came to the afternoon when Lin Chuan was still half asleep. He suddenly felt a pair of soft hands gently kneading his face. Sometimes the nose is pinched, sometimes the ears are rubbed, and sometimes the cheek is gently kissed. Lin Chuan grabbed Li Mengyao's small hand, feeling the warmth and softness from her palm. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and then he slowly opened his eyes. Looking at his beautiful wife, Lin Chuan smiled and said, "Wife, you are not being on a stride after waking up?" Hearing Lin Chuan's words, Li Mengyao's pretty face turned slightly red. She tried to hold back a smile and tilted her head slightly. She was so adorable. Then she said with a smile, "Husband, you are finally awake. How can I not wake up like this?" Lin Chuan shook his head helplessly, looking at his wife's naughty appearance, his heart filled with love. "What's wrong with me? You can't blame me. You woke up by yourself. Look, you're still holding my hand." Li Mengyao blinked her beautiful eyes and said playfully. Looking at his wife's innocent expression, Lin Xuan smiled heavily. I think you are reaching to talk nonsense. Life. After saying that, Lin Xuan hugged Li Mengyao tightly, lifted her chin, and kissed her plump, rosy lips. Li Mengyao's body trembled slightly, her beautiful eyes gradually closed, enjoying this sweet moment. I don't know how long it took before the two lips parted. Li Mengyao lay limply on Lin Xuan, her little head a little confused. There was a reason why I flirted with my husband just now, but I was kissing him so passionately that I forgot. At this moment, Lin Xuan looked at Li Mengyao in his arms and said gently, Wife, what song should we sing at our wedding? Hearing this, Li Mengyao seemed to suddenly remember something important. Her eyes lit up, and she said, That's it, I just wanted to wake you up to ask you about this. What song are we going to sing at our wedding? My husband has already thought about it, Lin Xuan said with a smile. What song? Li Mengyao blinked curiously. This is the song. Then Lin Xuan took out his mobile phone, opened the music app and played it. Suddenly, a melodious and sweet song sounded. Yes, you can guess what song it is. Wow! That sounds nice. Li Mengyao was surprised and her face was filled with a happy smile. Lin Xuan smiled and said, This song has a beautiful melody and affectionate lyrics. It is very suitable for the bride and groom to sing at a wedding. It is also relatively simple and easy to learn. So what are you waiting for, honey? You haven't even started teaching me to sing yet. Li Mengyao pouted her cute little mouth and gently poked Lin Xuan's chest. Husband will teach you right away. Lin Xuan smiled tingly. Then picked up Li Mengyao. Put me down quickly. I can walk by myself. Li Mengyao was startled and quickly reached out to hug Lin Xuan's neck tightly at the same time. Her long and beautiful legs were tightly hooked around his waist, for fear that she would fall accidentally. Your husband will carry you there. Lin Xuan looked at the beauty in his arms with a wicked smile, then strode out of the master bedroom. Li Mengyao had no choice but to hang on Lin Xuan obediently. But her blushing face was puffed up with anger. What if my mother-in-law saw me? However, Lin Xuan didn't care about these. He carried Li Mengyao into the elevator and came to the multimedia audiovisual room on the second floor underground, ready to start today's singing practice. As night fell and the lights came on, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao enjoyed a sumptuous dinner and then went up to the roof of the Haitian Yijing Villa hand in hand. They strolled to the observatory area on the roof, which seemed like a fairyland far away from the hustle and bustle of the world under the gentle caress of the moonlight. The entire observatory seemed particularly quiet and peaceful. A night sky over Jinghe City is exceptionally clear tonight, and the view from the rooftop of the villa is boundless, making it a perfect place to observe celestial phenomena and enjoy meteor showers. Although the sky is not dotted with stars at this moment, there are a few bright and dazzling stars dotted in it, like pearls in the night sky. Li Mengyao snuggled up to Lin Xuan, looking up at the night sky with joy, her eyes full of anticipation for the meteor shower. She asked softly, Honey, do you think we can see the lurid meteor shower tonight? Lin Xuan hugged her tightly and replied softly, Sure. Honey, what is that shining star? Li Mengyao raised her little hand and pointed to the east, asking curiously. Lin Xuan smiled slightly and answered patiently. That is Alpha Borealis. Then Li Mengyao pointed to the star next to Alpha Borealis and asked again, What about this one? Lin Xuan still had a smile on his face and told her softly, That's Alpha Virgo. There is another one, the one on top. Li Mengyao pointed again and asked with anticipation in her eyes. Lin Xuan looked in the direction of her finger and replied with a smile, That is Beta Leo. Hearing this answer, Li Mengyao showed a surprised expression and couldn't help but praise, Husband, are you studying astronomy? How do you know everything? She looked at Lin Xuan happily, with admiration in her eyes. Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly and explained, I was interested in this area before, so I have studied it. Which boy was not interested in the vast universe when he was a child? At this moment, a flash of light flashed across the sky above the Haitian Yijing Villa. As dazzling as a meteor. It's the Lyra meteor shower, Li Mengyao shouted excitedly. She was as excited as a child. But the happy smile on her face, then she quickly closed her beautiful eyes, clasped her hands together, and began to make a pious wish. A minute later, Li Mengyao slowly opened her beautiful eyes, only to find that Lin Xuan had been looking at her quietly. She asked curiously, Husband, didn't you make a wish? Lin Xuan smiled and shook her head, saying gently, Husband doesn't need to make a wish. Then he gazed at Li Mengyao affectionately and said slowly, Because my greatest wish is right in front of me. Chapter 249 Son, go cook. After saying that, Lin Xuan kissed Li Mengyao's tender red lips passionately. Li Mengyao closed her beautiful eyes slightly, and her arms naturally wrapped around Lin Xuan's neck, responding to the kiss passionately. Under the deep and vast night sky, one meteor shower streaks across the sky, followed by another. A Lyra meteor shower falls like a dreamy rain, and their tracks are like twinkling silver lines in the night sky. Beautiful and mysterious. Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao hugged each other tightly and kissed each other. Against the backdrop of the bright stars, their figures appear particularly charming. A shooting star streaked across the sky, and the momentary light illuminated their happy faces. The world around them seemed to have stopped, with only the sounds of their heartbeats and breathing, and their intertwined souls shining the most brilliantly under the gorgeous starry sky. The next morning, sunlight poured into the Haitian Yijing villa through the window, and Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao woke up from their sweet dreams. After they had breakfast together, people in the villa became busy. "Wife, have you brought everything?" Lin Xuan asked with concern while packing his luggage. "While it seems like we're still missing some clothes, I'll go get some more," Li Mengyao replied, then turned around and began to look for the clothes she needed. "When I go back to Lin Xuan's hometown, of course I have to dress beautifully. Today, Lin Xuan, Li Mengyao and Sheng Shulan are preparing to return to Yanhai City before May Day." Lin Xuan was thinking about which car to drive back at this time. "Oh, drive the Toyota Alphard any car. I'm a bit tired of driving the Maybach recently." At this moment, Shang Shulan's voice came from downstairs. "Son, have you packed everything? Hurry up." Lin Xuan replied. "Honey, which one of my hands do you think looks good?" At this time, Li Mengyao was holding the clothes in both hands, gesturing in front of the mirror and looking at Lin Xuan from time to time, expecting his answer. "They all look good, let's take them all away," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "You're just trying to fool me again." Li Mengyao pouted slightly, as if she was not satisfied with the answer, but she continued to choose. Then she picked out one that she thought looked better and put it in her suitcase. "Honey, I'm ready," Li Mengyao said with a smile. "Okay." Lin Xuan nodded with a smile. He walked briskly to the crib. Dabao and Xiaobao looked up as if they had telepathy to see who was coming. When they saw it was his dad, Dabao danced with excitement and kept twisting his little body. But Xiaobao just fell back, seemingly not interested in his father's arrival. "Dabao and Xiaobao, we are going back to Dad's hometown today. Do you miss Grandpa?" Lin Xuan asked gently. "Yeah," Dabao shouted happily, as if responding to his father's words. "What about Xiaobao?" Lin Xuan looked at Xiaobao, looking forward to his reaction. However, Xiaobao just stuck out his tongue mischievously without making any sound. Lin Xuan couldn't help but laugh when he saw Xiaobao's cute appearance. Then, Lin Xuan skillfully placed them into the baby safety seat carriers, ensuring they were comfortable and safe. "Okay, everything is ready. Let's go." Li Mengyao came forward and took the initiative to help lift the two safety seat baskets, while Lin Xuan pulled the suitcase to the elevator entrance of the villa and took the elevator to the ground floor. At this time, Shang Shulan had been waiting in the hall for a long time. Afterwards, Lin Xuan walked out of the gate quickly, drove the Toyota Alphard Nanny car to the door of the villa, stopped it and opened the door. Then Lin Xuan got out of the car, moved all the luggage into the car, and then settled Li Mengyao, Shang Shulan and the babies before returning to the driver's seat, starting the car, and slowly driving towards Yanhai City. Along the way, Dabao and Xiaojiao were looking at the scenery outside the window curiously, as if they were full of curiosity about this strange world. Time passed quickly. 3 hours later, a Toyota Alphard Nanny car drove off the highway and finally arrived in Yanhai City. Lin Xuan opened the car window, took a deep breath, and the familiar sea breeze blew on his face. What met their eyes was still the endless beautiful bay. The water was crystal clear. The sun shone on the sea, and the waves were sparkling. Afterwards, Lin Xuan continued to drive the Toyota Alphard Nanny car, slowly moving along the coastline, and finally returned to the villa in Yanhai home. He parked the car and dragged the suitcase towards the entrance of the villa. Li Mengyao and Shang Shulan followed behind, carrying Dabao and Xiaobao's safety baskets respectively. Lin Xuan pushed open the door, walked into the villa, and shouted loudly, "I'm back." "Hey, you're back?" At this time, Lin Zhengjiuo came out of the kitchen wearing an apron and holding a spatula in his hand. He was supposed to go to work today, but because his grandchildren were coming back, he took a leave of absence and prepared lunch at home. Lin Zhengjiuo couldn't wait to come to Dabao and Xiaobao, his face filled with joy, and said, "Children, do you miss Grandpa?" He squatted down and looked carefully at the two cute babies. "Old Lin, get out of the way. You're trying to get close to the children with a smell of cooking smoke. Go and cook." Shang Shulan glared at Lin Zhengjiuo and said dissatisfied lie. Lin Zhengjiuo nodded quickly and said, Okay, son, go and cook. I'll go wash my face and look after the child." As he said that, he stuffed the spatula into Lin Xuan's hand and hurried to the bathroom. Only Lin Xuan was left standing there in a daze. "I just got back, hello." In the end, due to his family status, Lin Xuan obediently went to the kitchen and started cooking. After a while, Lin Zhengjiuo changed into clean clothes and sat back on the sofa in the hall. "Let me hug the kids." "Dad, Dabao seems very excited." Li Mengyao handed Dabao to Lin Zhengjiuo with a smile. At this time, Dabao was looking at the strange yet familiar environment in front of him, waving his little limbs, and seemed particularly happy. Dabao is really lively. Do you miss Grandpa? Where is Grandpa? Lin Zhengjiuo looked at Dabao kindly and asked with a smile. Dabao waved his little hands, an innocent smile on his face, and made babbling sounds, as if responding to Lin Zhengjiuo's questions. Where is Xiaobao? Lin Zhengjiuo asked. At this time, Shan Shulan came over holding Xiaobao and said gently, Xiaobao is here, I just coaxed him to sleep. Oh, so that's the case, then let Xiaobao have a good sleep. Lin Zhengjiuo nodded. Let's eat. Lin Xuan brought out delicious dishes from the kitchen, and the aroma was fragrant. Afterwards, the family sat around the dining table and happily enjoyed the sumptuous lunch. Chapter 250. Let's buy another diamond ring. After a hearty lunch at noon, Lin Xuan and Li Mengyao took the babies back to the master bedroom to prepare for a nap. The afternoon time passed slowly, and Lin Xuan was the first to wake up from his sleep. As usual, he gently kissed his wife who was sleeping on top of him, and got up to check on the children. Lin Xuan tiptoed to the crib and found that Dabao and Xiaobao were still in sweet dreams. Dabao was lying on the bed with his arms and legs spread out, his mouth slightly open. Xiaobao lay quietly on the bed with his back to them. Looking at the adorable appearance of these two little guys, Lin Xuan felt a warm feeling in his ear that couldn't help but pick up the camera, press the shutter button towards the sleeping children, and record this beautiful moment. Then he picked out the photo he was most satisfied with and sent it to his circle of friends, with the caption. Before long, this post attracted the attention and comments of friends. Xu Quan left a message, Brother Xuan. Your life is my dream. At this moment, he is working for Lin Xuan, busy with the decoration of the Xuanmeng restaurant branch. Zhang Zesheng also smiled and said, the babies seem to have grown up a little bit. Chen Jingming exclaimed. What cute two little angels. Wang Xin Kai, wow, Brother Xuan is back. Afterwards, messages kept popping up in the childhood friend group of Lin Xuan. Wang Xin Kai and Quyueze. Wang Xin Kai, why didn't you tell me Brother Xuan was coming back? Quyueze, Brother Xuan is back? Wang Xin Kai, Weezy, go check your moments. Quyueze. Wow, what a cute baby. Lin Xuan, I just came back this morning. Wang Xin Kai, then why don't we get together? I haven't seen Brother Xuan for a long time. Quyueze. Yes, come to my house and show you my skills. Lin Xuan, come to my house for dinner. I just happened to have something for you. So, Lin Xuan and his childhood friends made an appointment for dinner tonight. On soon came to evening, Lin Xuan had already prepared a table of sumptuous meal, and Wang Xin Kai and Quyueze also arrived at the door of Yanhe Valley on time. Lin Xuan heard the doorbell ring and immediately opened the door. Brother Xuan, long time no see. Wang Xin Kai saw Lin Xuan and excitedly gave him a big hug. It's been a while since we last met. Come in, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Wang Xin Kai and Quyueze walked into the living room of the villa and saw Li Mengyao taking care of Dabao and Xiaobao gently. The two shouted in unison. Hello, sister-in-law. Li Mengyao smiled gently and responded, hello, you guys. Then, Wang Xin Kai said happily, wow. This is Brother Xuan's child, he is even cuter than in the photo. Quyueze asked curiously, Brother Xuan. Which one is the older brother or the older sister? Lin Xuan smiled and explained, the lively and active one is the elder sister, and the relatively quiet one is the younger brother. After saying that, Wang Xin Kai immediately took out to read envelopes from his pocket and said enthusiastically, come on, uncle will give you a red envelope. I hope you grow up quickly. At the same time, Quyueze also took out to read envelopes. Together, they handed the red envelopes to Dabao and Xiaobao. As soon as Dabao saw the red thing swaying in front of him, he immediately stretched out his little hand to grab it. Xiaobao just stood there, staring at his two uncles with confusion on his face. Seeing this, Lin Xuan couldn't help but smile and said, our Dabao is really a little money G-rubber. In this way, Dabao and Xiaobao happily received more red envelopes. By the way, Brother Xuan, didn't you say you had something for us? Quyueze asked. I almost forgot. Lin Xuan slapped his forehead, then turned and walked into the room. After a while, he came out with two exquisite invitations in his hand. He walked up to Wang Xin Kai and Quyueze and handed them over. We are planning to hold our wedding next month, so we are giving you a wedding invitation today, said Lin Xuan. Then we must go. Wang Xin Kai and Quyueze looked at the exquisite invitation in front of them, opened it, and found that the design inside was very exquisite, and even exuded a faint fragrance. This invitation is so beautiful, it feels like a work of art. Quyueze couldn't help but admire it. Yes. The invitation is so high-end, it looks like the wedding must be quite grand, Wang Xin Kai agreed. Just then, Shan Shulan came down from upstairs and greeted us with a smile. Is this Xin Kai and Weise? Long time no see? Hello, Auntie, Huang Xian Kai and Qiuyue Iz responded politely. Because they were Lin Xuan's childhood friends, they often ate with each other when they were young. So Shang Shelin also recognized them. You guys sit down and chat first, I still have a few dishes to cook, Lin Xuan said, standing up and walking towards the kitchen. Brother Xuan, let me give you a hand. Seeing this, Qiuyue Iz hurriedly followed Lin Xuan's steps and walked into the kitchen to help. Lin Xuan knew that Qiuyue Iz had been good at cooking since he was young, so he didn't stop him. I remember that I couldn't eat the food my mother cooked, so I went to his house to learn how to cook. At this moment, the two were busy in the kitchen together. Huizhe, what's the recent situation of the decoration industry? Lin Xuan asked with concern while stir-frying the dishes in the pot. Hey, Brother Xuan. The real estate market is sluggish now, so naturally no one is willing to renovate. The market is really getting worse and worse, even companies are starting to lay off employees. Qiuyue Iz replied helplessly while cutting vegetables skillfully. And don't do it. Have you ever considered changing your career? Lin Xuan said, gently shaking the spatula. What career do you want to change to? Qiuyue Iz asked, puzzled. Why? I will invest and help you open a restaurant. What do you think? Lin Xuan said with a smile. Really? Qiuyue Iz asked in disbelief with his eyes wide open. Of course, Lin Xuan answered affirmatively. Brother Xuan, you are so good to me. Qiuyue Iz excitedly went forward and hugged Lin Xuan, crying with gratitude. Don't be too happy yet. Come and take charge of the kitchen. Let me see if your cooking skills are up to par. Lin Xuan handed the spoon to Qiuyue Iz and said with a smile. Okay, Brother Xuan, don't worry. Then Qiuyue Iz began to cook seriously. Lin Xuan looked at Qiuyue Iz's skilled and serious look and nodded with satisfaction. It was just right that Xuan Meng restaurant could be opened in Yanhai City. After dinner in the evening, Lin Xuan chatted and laughed with Huang Xian Kai and Qiuyue Iz in the living room. The time was almost up, so the two said goodbye to Lin Xuan's family and went back. It was late at night. Li Mengyao leaned softly on Lin Xuan, browsing her phone. Lin Xuan held Li Mengyao's little hand and kept playing with it in his hand. Suddenly he called out softly, "Wife." Li Mengyao raised her head, her clear eyes blinking. Lin Xuan gently pressed his forehead against hers. Let's go buy another diamond ring.